Don't miss the awesome Naruto stories my sister creates. Her last channel was hacked, so to stay in the loop, please subscribe to her new channel. It would mean a lot to her, and you won't regret it. Dear Naruto Lemon fans, I'm thrilled to invite all of you to my Boosty channel, where you can enjoy exclusive Naruto Lemon scenes in a comfortable and supportive community. Choose from various subscription tiers, from Mini Lemon to God Lemon, and gain access to unique content tailored just for our fans. Plus, subscribers to over Naruto Lemon and God Lemon will receive special mentions in my videos. Support my channel and dive deeper into the world of Naruto today. Dare! The plot I created. I begin to voice it. Chapter 1, The Broken World. Rain lazily trickled down the car window, turning the Tokyo night into a kaleidoscope of lights and shadows. Naruto Uzumaki, a 5-year-old boy, sat in the back seat, clutching his favorite stuffed fox. His blue eyes were shining with happiness, and his little legs swayed in time with his thoughts. "Dad, were you really on TV?" Naruto asked, looking at Minato's reflection in the rearview mirror. Minato Namikaze, the owner of the largest technology corporation in Tokyo, glanced at his son and smiled warmly. "It's true," he replied, his voice calm as always. "Today I was talking about a new development that I hope will make life easier for many people." "See, Naruto?" Kushina interjected from the passenger seat, her red hair falling softly around her shoulders and her eyes shining with love. "Your dad is not only a genius, he's a hero." Naruto smiled widely, his face lighting up with pride as he hugged his fox tighter. "Dad is the best," he declared, not hiding his joy. Kushina laughed, her laughter as warm and alive as she was. Naruto's thoughts. "Mom and Dad are always so kind. I'm so lucky to have them. I want everything to always stay like this." End of thoughts. The car parked smoothly in a small vacant lot. They decided to walk the rest of the way through a narrow alley. Minato walked ahead, occasionally glancing back to make sure the family was following him. Kushina held Naruto's hand, her fingers warm and reliable. But this evening, which was supposed to end like hundreds of others, turned into tragedy. A man emerged from the shadows. His movements were sharp, his gaze was nervous, and he held a gun in his hands. "Money. Phones. Now," he shouted, pointing the gun at Minato. His voice was shaking, as were his hands. Minato raised his hands, his face remaining calm. "Calm down," he said in a level voice. "We'll do whatever you want. Just don't touch my family." Minato's thoughts. "Can't take risks. The money isn't worth their lives." End of thoughts. Kushina, standing slightly behind, squeezed Naruto's hand, her eyes blazing with determination, but there was also worry in them. Kushina's thoughts. "I won't let that man hurt Naruto. No matter what happens, I will protect him." End of thoughts. But the man was too scared. His fingers trembled. A shot rang out. Minato fell to the ground. "Minato!" Kushina screamed, rushing towards him. The second shot rang out a moment later. The bullet caught her and she fell next to her husband. Naruto froze. His small hands shook, but he couldn't move. The world around him disappeared, leaving only silence, broken by the raindrops falling to the ground. Naruto's thoughts. Why? Why aren't Mom and Dad moving anymore? Why aren't they responding? This must be a dream. Just a dream. End of thoughts. The police arrived a few minutes later. They arrested the criminal on the spot, but it meant nothing to Naruto. His eyes were fixed on the motionless bodies of his parents. The boy knelt down next to Kushina, his hands squeezing her cold palm. "Mom. Dad, please wake up," he whispered. His voice was quiet, as if he was afraid to destroy the fragile hope. But nothing happened. From then on, nightmares became his constant companions. Every night he saw this moment over and over again, his parents falling, their arms no longer moving, the world collapsing around him. He woke up in a cold sweat, his breathing ragged, and sometimes blood coming out of his mouth. Doctors said it was stress. They prescribed medications, tried to help. But no one could give him back what was lost. Naruto's thoughts. If only I was stronger. If only I could have done something, they would be alive. This is all my fault. End of thoughts. Left an orphan, Naruto inherited his father's company. But what does a corporation mean to a 5-year-old boy? The adults around him saw him as nothing more than a tool to save the business. He had to listen to their speeches, endure looks full of pity and calculation. This made him cold and distant. He learned to hide his emotions behind a mask of indifference. The years passed. Naruto grew older, but the pain did not go away. He was no longer a child who openly expressed emotions. His eyes, which used to shine with joy, were now cold, like shards of ice. Naruto's thoughts. Feelings only get in the way. They make you weak. And weak people are destroyed by this world. End of thoughts. Every night he silently asked his parents for forgiveness. But he never received an answer. Chapter 2, Mask of Composure. Years passed, but the memories of that terrible night haunted Naruto. He woke up from nightmares, his body shaking, his breathing ragged. The doctor's words that, "time will heal everything," seemed empty. Nothing could heal the wound that was deeper than physical pain. After the death of his parents, the world around Naruto changed. He had to face a new reality, cold, strict, filled with people who saw him as nothing more than the heir to a huge corporation. They spoke to him condescendingly, with false kindness, but behind their words there were always hidden expectations. "You're the head of the company now," one of the managers told him. "That's a big responsibility, boy." Boy, that word always cut into the ear. They looked down on him as if he were a child who didn't understand anything. Naruto's thoughts. To them, I'm just a tool. They don't see me as a person, only as my father's name. They expect me to become like him, but I can't. End of thoughts. Naruto learned to hide his emotions with each passing day. He wore a mask of indifference that no one could penetrate. His face became calm, cold. At meetings, he sat silently, listening to long speeches from adults who tried to instill in him what to do. "Mr. Uzumaki, this decision makes sense from a financial point of view," one of the directors said, leaning toward the boy with feigned concern. Naruto nodded, but something was boiling inside him. Naruto's thoughts. Why do they think I don't understand anything? They say they care about the company, but all they care about is their own gain. End of thoughts. One day, when the meeting was dragging on, he stood up and quietly said, "Decide for yourself. I have things to do." The adults looked at each other. Someone wanted to object, but Naruto's cold gaze silenced them. His days were monotonous. Classes, meetings, reports. It all turned into one endless gray canvas. The only time he felt alive was at night. At night he sat in his room, staring at the ceiling. The silence seemed friendlier to him than the voices of those who surrounded him during the day. But this same silence took him back to the past. Naruto's thoughts. I still remember their smiles. Mom always laughed, her voice was so warm. And Dad, he was like a rock. Why did they leave? Why was I left alone? End of thoughts. One night, he couldn't take it anymore. He went to his bed, grabbed the stuffed fox, the only thing left from his childhood, and squeezed it in his arms. "Forgive me," he whispered, his voice shaking. "Forgive me that I couldn't save you." He spent the whole night like that, sitting on the floor and clutching the toy as if it could give him comfort. Over the years, his coldness only increased. At school, he hardly communicated with anyone. Teachers praised him for his successes, but noted that he always kept to himself. Classmates avoided him, afraid to approach him. "Did you hear? It's that same Naruto Uzumaki, the heir to the corporation," they whispered. "He looks like he doesn't care about anything." Naruto heard these conversations, but did not react. He did not care what they thought about him. However, sometimes he felt melancholy. In the rare moments when he found himself alone with his memories, he allowed himself to dream. Naruto's thoughts. "I wish I could go back to when Mom and Dad were here. When everything was so simple. They always supported me, always believed in me. If they were here, I wouldn't feel so lost." End of thoughts. His house became a reflection of his inner state. Huge, cold, empty. In one of the rooms hung a photograph of his family. He often went there, but never stayed long. It was too painful to look at. One day, as he was passing this room, he stopped. His gaze lingered on the photograph. "Would you be proud of me?" he asked quietly, knowing there would be no answer. He ran his hand over the glass, beneath which was an image of their happy faces. Naruto's thoughts. "I'm trying. I really am, but sometimes I feel like it's not enough." Over time, Naruto learned to accept loneliness. It became his only constant companion. He felt that feeling pain was better than feeling nothing. He got used to hiding behind the mask he created for himself, and almost forgot what it was like to be himself. Chapter 3, Rainy Evening. The rain continued. Streams of water flowed down the streets of Tokyo, turning them into a mirrored network of reflections. The downpour muffled the noise of the city, leaving only the sound of drops hitting concrete and glass. For Naruto, walking slowly along the sidewalk, the rain was something familiar. It seemed to complement the emptiness inside him. Naruto's thoughts. Rain hides. It washes away everything, leaving only the cold. But I like it. When it rains, you can be invisible, forgotten. His hood pulled up and his hands buried deep in his pockets, he walked forward, ignoring the noise and movement around him, until he heard a scream. "Leave us alone." A female voice, full of despair and at the same time firmness, came from the dark alley. "We didn't do anything to you," said a second voice, higher pitched and more emotional. Naruto froze. He looked back in the direction of the sounds, but did not immediately dare to approach. Naruto's thoughts. "It's none of my business. They'll handle it themselves." He took a step back, but something inside him stopped him. Memories. A loud voice, like his mother's, that he would never hear again. Naruto clenched his fists and headed into the alley. A scene opened up before him that reminded him of his own fears. Two girls stood in front of a man with a knife. One of them, tall and slender, with long flaxen hair, stood up straight despite the tension. Her large caramel eyes watched the man carefully, trying not to show fear. Her hands shook slightly, but she did everything she could to keep her composure. Mahiru's thoughts. "Don't show weakness. If he senses that I'm afraid, it will only make things worse." End of thoughts. The second girl, the complete opposite of the first, stood out with her brightness. Her blue-violet hair with pink streaks seemed even more intense in the rain. Her starry eyes sparkled, but there was anger and defiance in them. She stood slightly ahead, as if ready to join the fight. "Do you think we can be intimidated?" she cried, her voice shaking but trying to keep it steady. AI's thoughts. "He might attack. It's scary. But if we show fear, he'll think he's won." End of thoughts. The man stepped forward, brandishing the knife, his face twisted with tension and his hands shaking. "Give us everything you have." "Hey," Naruto's voice said, calm and even. All three turned around. The man frowned. "Get lost if you want to live." Naruto slowly removed his hood, revealing his impassive face. His eyes looked straight at the man, cold and unreadable. "Just go away," he said quietly. The man froze for a moment, but then his rage took over and he lunged at Naruto with a knife. Naruto dodged, but the knife still left a deep cut on his side. The pain flared sharply, but he didn't even flinch. "Ah!" A short breath escaped from his chest. The man looked back, saw that the girls had managed to retreat, and quickly ran into the darkness. "You're hurt," the flax-haired girl ran up first, her voice trembling with excitement, but she tried to remain calm. "Everything's fine," Naruto answered shortly, squeezing the wound with his hand. "Is it normal?" The second girl shouted, her face flushed with anger, blush. "You're losing blood, it's not normal." Mahiru gently placed her hand on AI's shoulder. "Oh, calm down," she said quietly. Her voice was soft but firm. Mahiru's thoughts. "He looks like he doesn't care. Why? Why won't he let us help?" "I have a first aid kit at home," Mahiru continued, turning to Naruto. "Will you let us help?" Naruto looked at her, her eyes showed genuine concern. There was not a drop of pity in them. Naruto's thoughts. "They actually want to help? Why? We don't even know each other." End of thoughts. He nodded without saying a word. The apartment where the girls brought Naruto was small but cozy. Mahiru immediately went to get the first aid kit, leaving Naruto and AI in the room. "Are you always like this?" AI asked, folding her arms across her chest. "Which one?" Naruto answered calmly. "So silent and cold." Naruto didn't answer, he just looked away. "Leave him," Mahiru said, returning and opening the first aid kit. "But he's silent, as if he doesn't care." AI shouted, her face flushing red with indignation again, blush. Mahiru silently began to treat the wound. Her movements were gentle but confident. "Thank you," Naruto said quietly. "That's it?" AI snorted. "Just thank you." Mahiru smiled but said nothing. AI's thoughts. "This guy saved us, but he acts like he wants to disappear." Later, when Naruto was alone, he looked at his bandaged wound. He felt strange that someone was showing concern for him. Naruto's thoughts. "Why are they doing this? We just met. People aren't that sincere." End of thoughts. A whisper was heard behind the door. "Do you think he's okay?" AI asked. "I hope so," Mahiru replied. "He looks so lonely." Naruto closed his eyes, these words gave him a strange feeling. Naruto's thoughts. Alone? Did they notice? End of thoughts. Chapter 4, New Home. The apartment Naruto was brought to was small but cozy. There were no frills, everything looked neat and organized. There were several baskets of fruit on the kitchen table, and a stack of sparkling clean dishes in the corner. Mahiru took off her coat and immediately went to get the first aid kit, while AI stayed with Naruto, standing to the side, carefully examining him. Naruto, as always, was silent. He sat down on the nearest chair and waited quietly, watching as drops of water flowed off his cloak and fell to the floor. AI folded her arms across her chest and frowned. "Are you always this silent?" she suddenly asked, tilting her head slightly. Naruto looked up but didn't answer. "You know, you could at least pretend to care where you are," she continued, rolling her eyes. "We saved you, by the way." AI, came the calm voice of Mahiru, who had returned with the first aid kit. "Give him some time." AI looked at her and sighed with displeasure. Okay, but he's like a robot. He can't even say thank you properly. AI's thoughts. Why is he like this? He saved us, and now he acts like we owe him something. It's annoying. Mahiru walked up to Naruto with a first aid kit in her hands and carefully sat down on the chair next to him. Please take off your coat, she asked in a soft voice. Naruto silently complied. His movements were slow and careful, as if he was trying not to cause himself unnecessary pain. Under the cloak was a simple black shirt, which was now stained with blood. Mahiru frowned when she saw the wound. It's deeper than I thought. We need to treat it right away, she said, taking out some antiseptic and bandages. No need, Naruto answered shortly. I can handle it myself. You've done enough, Mahiru interrupted, her voice soft but firm. Please let me help. Her hands began to gently clean the wound despite Naruto's weak protest, her movements precise and sure, as if she was used to caring for others. Mahiru's thoughts. He should be in pain, but he doesn't even flinch. What did he go through to become so cold-blooded? AI, who stood to the side, crossed her arms over her chest and watched them. You know, you're really lucky we didn't leave you there, she said with a slight grin. Next time, maybe try saying something other than thank you. Naruto looked at her, his face remaining impassive. Thank you, he repeated just as briefly. AI rolled her eyes. Wow, so emotional. Are you always like this? Mahiru glanced at her briefly. Oh, that's enough, she said softly. What? I'm just trying to talk to him. AI countered, her voice growing a little louder. AI's thoughts. Why am I so annoyed? He saved us. Maybe it's because he acts like he doesn't care? It's his choice, Mahiru answered calmly, continuing to bandage the wound. Don't put pressure on him. AI fell silent, but her face still showed displeasure. She turned away to hide her emotions and headed to the kitchen. AI's thoughts. Okay. Maybe that's just his personality. But why does it bother me so much? End of thoughts. Once Mahiru finished the bandage, she carefully put the tools back into the first aid kit. Everything is ready, she said, standing up. The wound is deep, but I don't think you need to go to the hospital. Naruto nodded without looking up. Thank you, he said quietly. This time Mahiru smiled. Please. AI returned with 2 cups of tea, placing one in front of Naruto. Here you go. Maybe this will make you a little more alive, she said, looking at him with a slight mockery. AI's thoughts. He's clearly been through something terrible. But that's no reason to act like you don't care. Naruto took the cup but didn't answer. Mahiru looked at him, her gaze becoming a little softer. If you want, you can stay with us today. The rain is getting heavier, and you need to rest. Naruto looked at her, slightly surprised for the first time. Why? He asked. Mahiru didn't answer right away. You saved us. It's the least we can do, she said finally. AI looked at her, frowning slightly. It's your idea, but I don't mind, she said. Just warning you, if you turn out to be some kind of maniac, I'll be the first to call the police. Mahiru shook her head. Oh, enough kidding. Mahiru's thoughts. He needs a place where he can just rest. He looks like he hasn't known what that is for a long time. End of thoughts. Naruto didn't answer, but his gaze became a little less cold. He nodded. Thank you. AI looked at him, softening for a moment. You're welcome. Just please try not to be so robotic, okay? AI's thoughts. Maybe he really can't express emotions. But I hope we can change that. End of thoughts. Chapter 5, The Nightmare That Won't Let Go. The rain that had been falling all day had finally stopped, leaving behind a damp air and the faint drip of water from the rooftops. The apartment was quiet, only the soft light of the moon filtering through the half-closed curtains. AI lay on the bed in her room, covered with a blanket. Her breathing was even, but her sleep was restless. She tossed and turned until a soft, barely audible sound woke her from her half-sleep. AI sat up, listening. The sound was getting louder, like heavy breathing or muffled sobs. AI's thoughts. What is this? It's not Mahiru. Then who is it? End of thoughts. AI stood up, put on her robe and slowly walked out into the hallway. The sound was coming from the room where Naruto was left. She opened the door slightly and her eyes widened. Naruto sat on the edge of the bed, hunched over, his breathing ragged and blood dripping from his lips, leaving crimson stains on his palms and the sheets. Naruto! AI cried out, her voice full of shock and worry. She ran towards him, her hands instinctively reaching for his shoulders. What's wrong? Are you hurt? Naruto slowly raised his head, his eyes, usually so cold and emotionless, were now filled with pain. It's normal, he squeezed out, trying to turn away. Normal? AI exclaimed, her voice breaking. Are you okay? Do you think this is normal? Mahiru came running into the room at her scream. She looked worried, but tried to remain calm. What happened? She asked, looking from AI to Naruto. She froze for a moment when she saw the blood, but quickly moved closer. Mahiru gently placed her hand on Naruto's shoulder, her voice soft but firm. You don't have to hide it. We can help. Naruto clenched his fists, his breathing heavy. It won't change anything, he answered in a hoarse voice. Naruto's thoughts. They won't understand. No one understands. These are just nightmares. Always nightmares. End of thoughts. Mahiru sat down next to him, her eyes studying his tired face. You don't think so, she said quietly. Her words sounded confident, but with a hint of sadness. AI bit her lip, her gaze darting between Naruto and Mahiru. We have to do something, she said finally. Mahiru, maybe we should call an ambulance? No. Naruto snapped. He stood up, swaying slightly, and clenched his fists tighter. I don't want any doctors. Mahiru gently touched his arm, causing him to sit up again. Okay, she said calmly. But you have to tell me what's happening to you. AI hugged herself with her arms, her face turning red with emotion, blush. You're being an idiot, she blurted out, not holding back her irritation. We just want to help, but you. Mahiru gave her a warning look. Hey, don't push him. AI's thoughts. Why is he so stubborn? He's suffering. Why can't he just tell the truth? End of thoughts. Naruto sighed softly, his gaze wandering around the room but not stopping at anything. They're nightmares, he finally admitted. It's the same every time. I see them being killed, over and over again. AI sat down on the bed opposite him, her eyes widening in surprise, but she quickly composed herself. Parents? She asked cautiously. Naruto nodded. It's been going on since I was a kid. Every time I wake up, I can't breathe. Mahiru's thoughts. He's in so much pain. And all this time he's been carrying this burden alone. How hard it is for him. End of thoughts. Mahiru squeezed his hand lightly. You're not alone, she said softly. You can trust us. AI snorted, but her voice became quieter as she spoke. You saved us, remember? Now we have to pay back the debt. Naruto gave her a quick glance that was both surprised and grateful, but he quickly turned away. Thank you, he said quietly. AI blushed and turned away, blush. Well, of course you should be grateful, she muttered. But if you start coughing up blood again, I'm calling an ambulance whether you like it or not. Mahiru smiled weakly. You are stronger than you want to seem, she added. The room became quiet again. Only the sound of the wind outside the window broke the silence. AI was the first to get up. I'll get some water, she said, heading to the kitchen. Mahiru stayed next to Naruto, her gaze soft but serious. We'll be there, she said quietly. You don't have to go through this alone. Naruto didn't answer, but his shoulders relaxed a little. Chapter 6, Revealing the Past. The rain had stopped, leaving behind a cool breeze and a quiet whisper of wind. The morning began quietly. Mahiru, as always, got up early, made breakfast and quietly cleaned up so as not to wake the others. AI, on the other hand, stayed in bed longer, enjoying the silence, but her thoughts were preoccupied with the events of the previous night. AI's thoughts. What happened to him? He's all closed off, but this pain, it's too real to just ignore. End of thoughts. When AI finally left the room, she was met in the kitchen by Mahiru, carefully placing food on plates. Good morning, I said, yawning and stretching. Good, Mahiru answered softly. What about Naruto? AI frowned, remembering how he looked at night. He left early, Mahiru answered, without looking up from her work. AI froze, her face contorted in a mixture of surprise and irritation. Left? How did he leave? He didn't even say anything. He left a note, Mahiru replied, handing over the piece of paper. AI snatched it and ran her eyes over the short text. Thank you for your help. I'll be right back. That's it? AI exclaimed, her voice growing louder. He saved us, stayed for one night, and now he just disappears? Mahiru looked at her calmly, her eyes expressing more understanding than irritation. He'll come back, she said confidently. But that doesn't mean we should sit on our hands. AI frowned, looking at her friend. Are you planning something? Yes, Mahiru nodded. We know almost nothing about him. But I think we need to find out. The day passed in tense silence. AI and Mahiru were both lost in thought. AI occasionally voiced her displeasure at Naruto leaving so abruptly, but her words did not sound sincere. Deep down, she was worried about him. Mahiru, on the other hand, was focused and calm, carefully writing down everything she knew about Naruto in a small notebook. Mahiru's thoughts. He saved us. It can't be an accident. He's clearly not just a passerby. What made him become like this? End of thoughts. The next day, the girls decided to take action. AI, with her usual energy, insisted on starting with the internet. He doesn't seem like a normal guy, she said, opening her laptop. Something tells me there might be information on him. Mahiru nodded quietly in agreement. Let's start with the last name. Did you hear how he introduced himself? No, AI frowned. He didn't say anything at all. Then we'll search by description, suggested Mahiru. After hours of searching, they came across an old article. The headline was simple but shocking. Tokyo tragedy, heirs to tech empire killed in robbery. AI and Mahiru exchanged glances. It's him, AI said quietly, her voice trembling. They began to read. The article described how Minato Namikaze, the head of the largest technology company in Tokyo, and his wife Kushina Uzumaki were killed in a robbery. Their 5-year-old son, Naruto, became the sole heir to the company. Mahiru pushed the laptop away, her hands shaking slightly. He was only 5, she whispered. And he saw it, AI added, her voice quiet, almost a whisper. They continued to search for information. The following articles told of Naruto growing up under the tutelage of the company's management, how he became silent, cold-blooded, and withdrawn. AI's thoughts. That's why he's like this. He had to go through hell. He lost everyone he loved and got a corporation instead of a family. End of thoughts. Now everything is clear, Mahiru said, closing the laptop. AI clenched her fists. It's terrible. And he's alone all this time. Mahiru looked up at her, her eyes full of determination. We can't change his past, she said. But we can be with him now. In the evening, when Naruto returned, the girls met him in the living room. He looked as calm as always, but there was a slight surprise in his eyes when he saw their serious faces. Did something happen? He asked. AI stood up, her gaze firm. Yes, it happened. We know who you are. Naruto froze, his face expressionless but his eyes tense. Why? He asked quietly. Because you don't tell us anything, AI replied sharply. And we want to understand why you're like this. Mahiru placed her hand on her shoulder, trying to calm her down. We didn't mean to intrude on your life, she said softly. But you left us no choice. Naruto turned away, his fists clenched tensely. You don't understand anything, he said finally. This won't change anything. Maybe it won't, AI replied, coming closer. But you're not alone now. Mahiru added. We just want to help you. There was silence in the room for a moment. Naruto looked at them, his eyes full of contradictions. Thank you, he said finally, his voice quiet but sincere. Chapter 7, First Steps to Rapprochement. The morning in the apartment began as usual. Mahiru was quietly bustling about in the kitchen, and AI was grumbling, trying to get out of bed. Naruto, as always, got up before everyone else, but this time he lingered in the living room, staring out the window. Mahiru glanced at him furtively, wiping her hands with a towel. Mahiru's thoughts. He's silent again. It must be hard for him to open up. But maybe he'll get used to it with time. End of thoughts. AI walked into the room with a yawn, her bright blue-violet hair slightly disheveled, and she sat down across from Naruto, staring at him with narrowed eyes. You look like someone who hasn't slept all night, she said. Naruto glanced at her briefly, but didn't answer. Well, of course, you're silent again, AI continued, rolling her eyes. Maybe you're just a robot. Ouch, Mahiru said reproachfully, placing a cup of tea in front of her. AI took the cup but did not step back. What? I'm just trying to get him out of this icy state. Who lives like that anyway? Mahiru sighed quietly, but her face remained calm. Mahiru's thoughts. AI tries to make him feel like he belongs. But she seems to go too far sometimes. End of thoughts. Naruto finally spoke, his voice quiet but even. I am not a robot. AI froze, then a satisfied smile lit up her face. Wow, he started talking. That's progress. Naruto turned away, but the corners of his lips lifted slightly, almost imperceptibly. The day went on as usual. AI and Mahiru did their usual things while Naruto sat with his laptop, checking something for work. Sometimes AI tried to distract him with her jokes, and Mahiru brought him tea, offering a break. While sitting at the table during lunch, AI suddenly broke the silence. Why did you even decide to save us then? Naruto froze for a moment, then placed his fork on his plate. Because I could, he replied. Because I could? AI repeated, frowning incredulously. That's the most boring answer possible. Mahiru looked at him, her gaze attentive but soft. You risked yourself to save us, she said. That means a lot. Naruto looked at her but didn't answer. Naruto's thoughts. I just did what needed to be done. But why are they so interested in this? End of thoughts. That evening, AI insisted on watching a movie. She sat down on the couch, Mahiru sat next to her, and Naruto, albeit reluctantly, joined them. Okay, AI began, fast-forwarding through the trailer, it's a comedy. You know what that is, right, Naruto? Naruto gave her a calm look. I know. Very well, I said, winking at him. Then let's see if you can laugh at least once. The movie started and AI, as always, couldn't sit still. She laughed, commented on what was happening and occasionally nudged Naruto with her elbow so that he would also say something. Come on, that was funny, she exclaimed after one scene. Naruto just nodded, but then, to AI and Mahiru's surprise, he chuckled softly. He smiled. AI cried, pointing at him. This is a historic moment. Mahiru laughed quietly. Don't be so dramatic, AI. No, I'm serious. AI turned to Naruto. Do you even realize what just happened? You showed emotion. Naruto looked at her, his gaze becoming a little softer. It was a good moment, he admitted. AI froze, then her face broke into a wide smile. AI's thoughts. Finally. He's starting to relax. Maybe we can really help him open up. End of thoughts. As the days went by, the interactions between them became more and more natural. AI often joked around, trying to snap Naruto out of his cold state. Sometimes her jokes were too cheeky, but Naruto reacted to them more calmly than before. One evening, while Mahiru was preparing dinner, AI and Naruto were left alone in the living room. You've changed, you know, AI suddenly said, lying on the sofa and looking at him. What do you mean? Naruto asked calmly. Well, before you were like an iceberg. But now at least you react to jokes. Perhaps, he answered shortly. AI snorted, but didn't argue. AI's thoughts. He's still secretive, but he's changing. Slowly, but he's changing. End of thoughts. As Mahiru called them to the table, AI glanced at Naruto. You're acting strange today, she said. Why? He asked, frowning slightly. You just look calm. Naruto didn't answer, but his gaze became thoughtful. Naruto's thoughts. Calm? Maybe. But it's a strange feeling. Being around them, it's not as bad as I thought. End of thoughts. Mahiru, as always, was the bridge that connected them, her thoughtfulness and attention helping to create an atmosphere of comfort that Naruto hadn't felt in a long time. One day, when they were having dinner, Mahiru looked at Naruto and quietly said, You know, we're here if you need to talk. He looked up, meeting her eyes. I know, he answered quietly. AI chuckled. It's almost a compliment on his part. Mahiru smiled, and Naruto, after thinking for a moment, nodded slightly. Naruto's thoughts. They really care about me. It's weird, but nice. End of thoughts. The evening was drawing to a close, but the atmosphere in the apartment remained relaxed. AI decided to try again to bring Naruto out of his cold state. She looked at him with a slight smile that could have meant either a joke or a challenge. Naruto, have you ever played any board games? She asked, suddenly sitting closer to him. Naruto, who was just finishing his cup of tea, looked at her calmly. Rarely, he answered briefly. Well, you're going to play with us today. AI said, her voice filled with enthusiasm. Mahiru looked up from the book she was reading on the sofa. Oh, maybe he doesn't want to, she said softly. Of course she does, AI said, ignoring him. Just watch. I'll organize everything. She jumped up and started rummaging through the cabinet, taking out the box with the game. A few minutes later, a board with cards, chips and dice was laid out on the table in front of them. It's very simple, AI began, handing out cards. You just roll the dice, move, and then answer questions or complete tasks. Tasks? Naruto asked, frowning slightly. Yes, Yes. Everything is fair. So get ready, Mr. Cold-Blooded, you are in for a test. Mahiru smiled softly as she looked at AI's enthusiasm. Mahiru's thoughts. AI is trying to wake him up, as always. She's so sincere in her attempts, it touches me deep down. End of thoughts. The game began. Naruto, as always, was focused and laconic, but AI was not going to back down. Okay, your move, she said, handing him the dice. Naruto rolled the dice and his token landed on the task square. AI immediately looked at the card and began reading it out loud. Say something you're grateful for to the person sitting to your right, she said with a sly smile. Mahiru was sitting to Naruto's right. He looked at her, his face remained cool, but something flashed in his eyes that was difficult to describe. I'm grateful that you gave me a place where I can be myself, he said quietly. Mahiru blushed, her eyes widening in surprise. Blush. Oh, thank you, she muttered, looking down. AI froze, then burst out laughing. Wow. That was honest and sincere. I'm impressed. Naruto chuckled slightly, his face relaxing. The game continued, and with each round the tension between them became less. AI never missed an opportunity to joke. Mahiru kept the atmosphere friendly, and Naruto, although reserved, still participated in the conversation. Okay, last round. AI exclaimed, throwing the dice. Oh, another mission. What's it? Mahiru read the card and blushed slightly. Name the bravest thing you've ever done, she read quietly. AI thought for a moment, then smiled slyly. Well, I once challenged my history teacher, saying I knew more than him. And you know what? I won the argument. Mahiru laughed. That sounds like you, AI. Of course. And you, Mahiru? Mahiru froze for a moment, then looked at Naruto. Probably, inviting you to stay here. It was bold, but right, she said, her voice quiet but confident. Naruto looked at her, his gaze soft. Thank you, he replied, his voice sounding sincere. Later, when the game was over and everyone had gone to their rooms, AI lingered in the living room. She sat on the couch, looking out the window, where the lights of the night city were twinkling. AI's thoughts. He's starting to open up. Maybe we can really help him feel like he's not alone. End of thoughts. Naruto stopped as he passed by. Thank you for the evening, he said, his voice quiet but warmer than usual. AI turned around, her face lighting up with a smile. That's not all, she said. Get ready, I'm not done pulling the emotions out of you yet. Naruto chuckled slightly and walked on. That night was a turning point. Not just sympathy, but trust began to emerge between them. Small moments, a smile, a sincere word, shared laughter, became a bridge that connected them ever more tightly. Naruto's thoughts. They're not like the others. They're not trying to use me. Maybe I can actually trust them. End of thoughts. The night in the apartment was warm and quiet, as if the atmosphere itself had changed after their evening game. Naruto lay in bed, but sleep did not come. His thoughts wandered between memories of the past and what was happening now. Naruto's thoughts. They're weird. AI and Mahiru. They're trying so hard to break through that wall. But why? Why do they need to do that? End of thoughts. He closed his eyes, but still thought. Their voices, their laughter, all of it evoked a feeling he couldn't quite place. Was it comfort? Or fear? At the same time, in the living room, AI was sitting at the table, lazily twirling her phone in her hands. Her bright hair was pulled back into a messy bun, and her face was thoughtful. What are you thinking about? Came Mahiru's voice as she quietly entered the room. Oh Naruto, AI replied without turning around. Mahiru sat down next to her, crossing her legs. He's changing, she said with a slight smile. Yes, AI nodded, resting her chin on her palm. But it's so slow. These things don't happen quickly, Mahiru replied softly. He has a complicated past, and he's used to hiding his feelings. AI frowned, looking at her friend. Do you think we can help him? Mahiru didn't answer right away. She was lost in thought, her caramel eyes looking somewhere into the distance. I think he's starting to trust us, she said finally. And that's a lot. The next day Naruto surprised them again. Waking up early as usual, he this time stayed in the kitchen where he started preparing breakfast. AI entered first, stopping at the door and staring at him. Do you know how to cook? She asked, squinting her eyes. I can, he answered briefly, without turning around. Mahiru, following AI, looked at what was happening and smiled slightly. That's nice, she said quietly. Thank you. Naruto just nodded, putting pancakes on plates. What's this new twist? AI asked, sitting down at the table. Have you decided to go domestic? I just thought it was time to do something useful, he replied calmly. AI rolled her eyes, but a smile flickered across her face. Okay, Mr. Helpful, let's hope your pancakes aren't poisonous. She took a piece and tried it. Wow. AI said, her eyes widening. This is delicious. Mahiru also tried it and nodded quietly. This is really good. Naruto sat down at the table but didn't answer. There was a slight satisfaction in his eyes from their reaction, but he hid it as usual. After breakfast, AI suddenly suggested. Let's go for a walk. Mahiru raised her eyebrows in surprise. Walk? Yes. AI exclaimed enthusiastically. We need to get some fresh air. Otherwise, we're sitting here all the time. She turned to Naruto. You won't mind, right? Naruto thought for a moment, but then nodded. Fine. The walk around the city turned out to be unexpectedly pleasant. AI kept joking, telling stories from her life, and Mahiru quietly laughed, listening to her. Naruto walked alongside them, occasionally glancing at the girls. Their interaction reminded him of something distant, almost forgotten, family. When they stopped at a small park, AI suddenly suggested. Let's buy some ice cream. Mahiru nodded, but Naruto only frowned slightly. What? You don't eat ice cream? AI asked, squinting. I'm eating, he answered briefly. Excellent. AI immediately ran to the nearest stall, leaving them alone. Mahiru looked at Naruto, her face showing calm. She's so energetic, she said quietly. Yes, Naruto agreed, looking towards AI. Mahiru smiled slightly. It's good, isn't it? This kind of energy helps to defuse the situation. Naruto didn't answer, but his gaze became a little softer. When AI returned with 3 cups of ice cream, she said loudly. Well, there you go. I chose the best ones. Thank you, Naruto answered briefly, taking the ice cream. Oh, thank you. AI mimicked, but there was no irritation in her voice. She sat down on the bench and began to eat. Mahiru joined her, and Naruto remained standing next to her, looking at the sky. Naruto's thoughts. The world seems different when you're not alone. It's a strange feeling, but I like it. End of thoughts. AI, noticing his thoughtfulness, narrowed her eyes slightly. You're lost in your thoughts again, aren't you? She asked. Naruto looked at her, then chuckled slightly. Maybe. AI froze, her eyes widening. You. Did you just smile? Maybe, Naruto replied, sitting down next to them. Mahiru laughed quietly, and AI pointed her finger at him with feigned indignation. Hey, you're becoming more and more human. I'm proud of myself. And you, Mahiru added with a slight smile. These moments, small and almost imperceptible, became the basis of their connection. There was still a lot of awkwardness and secrets between them, but the friendship slowly but surely turned into something more, mutual understanding and sympathy. Naruto's thoughts. Maybe they really can help. Maybe I'm not as alone as I used to think. End of thoughts. After a walk in the park, the three returned home. The evening was quiet and calm. AI again brought up the idea of watching a movie together, but Naruto unexpectedly refused. I've had enough entertainment for today, he said briefly, rising from the sofa. Oh, come on, AI snorted, sliding onto the arm of the sofa. You spent the whole day with us, and suddenly you decided to retreat into your shell again? Naruto gave her a look that could be called soft. Tomorrow, he answered and headed to his room. AI raised her eyebrows in surprise. Tomorrow? Is that a promise? Perhaps, came the answer from the corridor. Mahiru laughed as she watched AI, who clearly didn't expect such a reaction. He's changing, Mahiru said quietly. AI nodded, crossing her arms over her chest. Yeah. Although it's more like a glacier that melts at a rate of 1 centimeter per year. Later, in their rooms, each of them thought about Naruto in their own way. Mahiru's thoughts. He started to open up, albeit little by little. It means he trusts us. I want him to feel safe. End of thoughts. AI's thoughts. This guy is weird, but there's something about him that makes me want to help him. I can't just ignore it. End of thoughts. The next morning, Naruto surprised them again by offering to help with the cleaning. You want to do something voluntarily? AI asked, putting her hands on her hips. I see no reason to refuse, he answered calmly. Mahiru smiled quietly. That would be very useful. AI sighed, looking at his serious face. Okay, then you're mine. You'll help me sort out the cabinets. Naruto nodded and followed her. Once the two of them were in the room, AI began to explain what exactly needed to be done. Okay, we're in total chaos here, she began, opening the closet doors. These boxes need to go, and this. Naruto silently began to unpack his things, not waiting for her to finish speaking. Hey! AI was indignant. Are you even listening? Yes, he answered briefly, continuing to sort things. AI rolled her eyes, but couldn't help but smile. Okay, it's hard to argue with you. At some point, AI came across an old box of photographs. She sat down on the floor and began to look through them. These are my school pictures, she said, laughing. Oh, look at this. She showed Naruto a picture of herself standing with a serious expression in front of a sign that said AI HOSHINO, Best Student of the Year. And it's you? He asked, raising an eyebrow slightly in surprise. Yeah. I wasn't as hopeless as I am now, was I? He chuckled as he looked at the photograph. This is unexpected. AI put the photos aside and looked at him. You, too, were probably normal once, right? His face immediately became serious. Maybe, he answered shortly. AI sighed, realizing she had gone too far. AI's thoughts. I reminded him of something unpleasant again. But I didn't mean to. End of thoughts. She quickly changed the subject, starting to talk about something more neutral. In the other room, Mahiru was making tea, glancing at the clock every now and then. She was thinking about how AI was dealing with Naruto. Mahiru's thoughts. They are so different. But AI has the ability to make people relax. I hope she can do it. End of thoughts. When AI and Naruto returned carrying boxes, Mahiru greeted them with a small smile. You did a great job. Well, I do, AI said, wiping imaginary sweat from her forehead. And Naruto, He's still operating at the machine level. Naruto just chuckled slightly, but didn't answer. In the evening they gathered again in the living room. This time no one suggested movies or games, they just talked quietly. We're having a small festival in town soon, Mahiru said, looking at them. Would you like to go? AI immediately perked up. Of course. Festivals are always fun. Naruto looked at her. Then at Mahiru. If it's important to you, then I'll go. AI chuckled. Do you seriously think we won't drag you along with us? Mahiru laughed quietly, covering her mouth with her hand. Then it's decided. We're going tomorrow evening. Mahiru's thoughts. This would be a good chance to spend time together so he could feel like he was part of something important. End of thoughts. Thus began a new page in their relationship. Every day brought more and more moments that brought them closer. Despite their differences, they became something like a small family, where everyone learned to trust each other. Naruto's thoughts. I didn't think I could feel like this. Maybe things really could be different. End of thoughts. The next morning began with anticipation of the upcoming festival. Mahiru had been busy with household chores since early morning, trying to get everything done before evening. AI, on the other hand, was lying on the couch, lazily fingering her phone and occasionally raising her eyes to comment on her friend's efforts. Are you always this energetic in the morning? She asked, yawning. I just want everything to be okay, Mahiru replied, wiping the dust off the shelves. Besides, you could help, too. AI chuckled, not looking up from her phone. I give moral support. That's also important. Naruto, who had been watching this exchange from the corner of the room, finally stood up. What needs to be done? He asked, his voice as calm as ever. Mahiru turned to him, surprised, but then smiled. If you want, you can help me take out the trash. Easy, he answered shortly, taking the bag. AI raised her head and looked after him. He seems to be becoming more and more homey. He just wants to be useful, Mahiru answered quietly. Mahiru's thoughts. Every day he opens up a little more. It gives hope. End of thoughts. When evening came, the three of them were getting ready to go out. AI was choosing her clothes, trying to look bright but not provocative. She stood in front of the mirror, looking at her reflection. Well, how is it? She asked, turning to Mahiru. Mahiru looked up from the book she was reading and smiled slightly. You always look great, AI. AI snorted, but her face softened. You're so sweet when you say that. Naruto appeared at the door, wearing a simple black shirt and jeans. Are we coming? He asked, looking at them. AI glanced at him and nodded. Well, at least you don't look like a robot. That's progress. Mahiru laughed quietly, covering her mouth with her hand, and Naruto only chuckled slightly. The festival greeted them with a noisy and colorful world, garlands hanging over the streets, colorful lanterns, music and laughter. People walked from one stall to another, trying food, playing games and buying souvenirs. AI, as always, couldn't sit still. She immediately grabbed Mahiru's hand and dragged her to the first stall with fried squid. We must try everything, she declared. Mahiru only managed to nod, and Naruto followed them, watching their enthusiasm. Naruto's thoughts. They are so different, but together they create a wonderful balance. AI is as bright as a star, and Mahiru is as calm as the moon. Maybe that's the reason why I'm here. End of thoughts. AI turned to face him, holding the squid stick in her hands. Well, will you have some? She asked, handing him the treat. Thank you, Naruto answered briefly, taking the wand. You have to say whether it's tasty or not, AI added, squinting slyly. Naruto took a bite, nodded, and said calmly. Not bad. AI rolled her eyes. You say it so boringly. As if you were forced to torture. It's just food, he noted. You're definitely someone to work with, I muttered, but there was a hint of warmth in her voice. After a while, they stopped at a game stand where you could win a teddy bear. AI immediately lit up. This will be mine, she exclaimed, throwing a coin on the counter. Mahiru and Naruto watched as she concentrated and accurately knocked down 3 cans in a row. Yes! AI cried, receiving the reward. Look! This will be the talisman of our apartment. Mahiru laughed, and Naruto, although he didn't show it, seemed relaxed. Naruto's thoughts. These moments. They are so rare. But somehow I feel like I don't want them to end. End of thoughts. As the festival drew to a close, the 3 found themselves on the edge of the square, where the final part of the evening, the fireworks, was being prepared. People gradually gathered around, taking their places. Mahiru was sitting on a bench, AI next to her. Naruto was standing nearby, looking at the sky. Naruto, come here, AI called, slapping the spot next to her. He looked at her, then at the sky, but still came over and sat down next to her. I didn't think you liked fireworks so much, he said quietly. We love you, AI replied. And you? He shrugged. I didn't think about it. AI sighed, but smiled. Well, think about it today. Mahiru leaned forward slightly, watching them. Mahiru's thoughts. AI is so easygoing. She always knows what to say to lighten the mood. End of thoughts. When the first explosion of light began in the sky, all 3 of them froze, watching the spectacle. Mahiru pressed her palms lightly to her chest, a soft smile spreading across her face. Mahiru's thoughts. It's so beautiful. And at such moments you feel alive. End of thoughts. AI leaned closer to Naruto, her eyes shining as brightly as the fireworks. Admit it, it's amazing, she said. Yes, he answered quietly, without taking his eyes off the sky. When the fireworks were over, they slowly made their way home. In the silence that followed, no one felt the need to say anything. But something had changed, their silence was no longer awkward. Mahiru looked at AI and then at Naruto, and a feeling grew in her heart that everything was going as it should be. AI, walking next to them, would occasionally glance at Naruto quickly, as if checking if he was okay. Thoughts AI. I see how you are changing. And even if you don't understand it yourself, this is only the beginning. End of thoughts. Naruto, walking ahead, heard their light footsteps behind him. For the first time in a long time, he felt something like calm. Naruto's thoughts. Maybe I can learn to trust. Maybe, it's not so scary. End of thoughts. Chapter 8, Testing the Senses. The school hallway was filled with noise. Students moved in a chaotic rhythm, some rushed to their lockers, some stood discussing the latest news, and some stole glances at Naruto, AI, and Mahiru. He is the center of attention. Not by choice, but now it has become inevitable. Naruto's thoughts. Why do these people spend so much time talking? They don't even know me. And honestly, I don't care. End of thoughts. AI and Mahiru walked next to him. AI, as always, was talking animatedly, waving her hands, and Mahiru was smiling quietly, glancing at her friend from time to time. And you should have seen his face. AI exclaimed, turning to Naruto. That was such an epic moment. What would you have done? Naruto looked at her, his face remaining impassive. I would just leave. AI rolled her eyes. Of course you would have left. It's always like that with you. What's wrong with that? He asked calmly. That it's boring. AI threw up her hands. Life isn't just about getting away from everything. Mahiru couldn't help but laugh, her voice soft but sincere. Mahiru's thoughts. AI is always so lively. She knows how to make a moment special even when it seems simple. End of thoughts. Their conversation attracted the attention of those around them. Groups of students in the hallways fell silent as they passed, but then began to whisper. Look, it's them. Why do AI and Mahiru spend time with him? He doesn't even talk. What did they see in him? These words were quiet, but to Naruto they were as loud as a bell. Naruto's thoughts. Is this so important for them to discuss? Why can't they leave us alone? End of thoughts. Mahiru noticed how tense he was. Her gaze slid over the crowd and she gently touched his arm. Don't pay attention, she said quietly. Naruto looked at her and nodded slightly, but his eyes remained cold. During the next break, the tension reached its peak. One of the students, a tall and confident guy, stopped Naruto right in the middle of the corridor. Hey, he began, standing in front of him. You think you're someone special? AI immediately stepped forward, standing between them. What do you want? She asked, her voice sharp. Do you like it when girls protect you? The guy asked mockingly, turning to Naruto. Naruto looked at him calmly, showing neither fear nor anger. I don't need anyone to protect me, he said quietly. The boy grinned, his eyes flashing with challenge. Really? Then show me what you can do. Mahiru stepped closer, her gaze worried. Leave him alone. This won't lead to anything. Who are you to tell me what to do? The guy snapped, but his confidence wavered a little under her serious gaze. AI laughed. All you can do is show off, right? It's so pathetic. The guy wanted to say something, but Naruto suddenly interrupted him. You want to fight because you're in pain, he said in an even voice. The corridor became quiet. The guy froze, his face distorted with surprise and anger. What did you say? He hissed. You're jealous, Naruto continued. You see them next to me, and it irritates you. AI broke into a smug smile. See? Even he understands that. The guy hesitated, then turned abruptly and left, making his way through the crowd. Once the incident was over, AI looked at Naruto with surprise. Did you just say that out loud? Do you even realize how cool that sounded? It's just the truth, he replied. Mahiru smiled softly, her eyes filled with warmth. You did great. Mahiru's thoughts. He's becoming more and more confident. Maybe he's starting to believe in himself? End of thoughts. AI sighed, then smiled. Okay, Mr. Right. But next time, leave me some of the fun. Word of what had happened quickly spread. Naruto was now an even more prominent figure at school. This irritated him, but AI and Mahiru tried to smooth things over. They began to spend more time together, the three of them, avoiding large groups. AI, with her usual energy, always found a way to cheer them up. You know, she said one evening as they walked home, if I were you, I'd put on a great show. Show? Naruto asked, frowning slightly. Yes. You could use all this attention to your advantage. It's not mine, he answered briefly. Mahiru laughed, her face lighting up with a soft smile. Oh, not everyone is like you. That's why I'm here to help. AI said, clapping him on the shoulder. AI's thoughts. He's so stubborn, but I can see he's starting to change. Just give him time. End of thoughts. Despite the rumors and provocations, Naruto gradually began to feel that he was no longer alone. AI and Mahiru supported him, making him feel like he was part of something bigger. Naruto's thoughts. They don't give up. Even when I think I don't need help, they stay by my side. Maybe I was wrong about not being able to trust anyone. End of thoughts. Chapter 9, declaration of love. The morning sun was struggling to break through the gray clouds that covered the sky. The city was coming alive after a rainy night, with people rushing to work and the noise of cars and human voices filling the streets. But for Naruto, this day was supposed to be just another routine, signing a few documents at the office, talking to the board of directors, and then returning home, where AI and Mahiru were waiting for him, hoping to spend a quiet evening together. However, fate was willing to play its own cruel joke. At breakfast, AI was as sarcastic as always, teasing Naruto, and Mahiru, smiling softly, eased the tension of their playful banter. "Hey," AI suddenly drawled, sitting down at the table opposite Naruto. "Are you going back to your office to sort things out? When will you realize that you have a team and don't have to carry everything on your own?" Naruto, biting off a piece of toast, slowly replied. "I rely on the team. It's just that they often don't know what to do themselves." AI snorted and pretended to need to fix her bright blue-violet hair. "It sounds like you're leading a flock of helpless lambs," she muttered. "But maybe they're just trying not to disappoint the company's great heir?" Naruto glanced at her out of the corner of his eye, but didn't answer, just shrugged. His calm, slightly detached look didn't change. Mahiru said quietly, feeling a little embarrassed by this conversation. "Don't provoke him into a conflict in the morning." "I'm not even trying." AI snapped, but then softened as she looked at Naruto's thoughtful face. "But seriously, are you okay? You seemed kind of tense yesterday." Naruto looked away to the window, where a light fog was descending on the city. He had indeed felt the tension for the last few days. There had been more and more strange delays in deliveries in the office, and the financial reports were confusing, as if someone was deliberately trying to create confusion. "Everything's fine," he answered briefly, trying not to escalate the situation. AI wanted to say something else, but Mahiru interrupted the conversation. "Maybe you should ask someone to help you more seriously. For example, hire your own person who will look after all the documents." Naruto thought for a moment. He could indeed use security and audit professionals to help him, but he was still hesitant, not wanting to make his company look weak in the eyes of his competitors. "I'll think about it," he finally said and stood up from the table. "Thank you for breakfast. I'll be back early so we can spend the evening together." "Of course," Mahiru smiled. "Don't be late," AI added, looking after him. Later, as the workday drew to a close, the atmosphere in Naruto's office was tense. Internal calls and emails signaled that there had been an emergency on one of the projects. The partners had suddenly pulled out of the contract. Lawyers had intervened, and snatches of conversations about espionage and industrial sabotage could be heard in the corridors. The thought of possible sabotage was becoming more real with each passing minute. Naruto checked his mail and found an email from an anonymous sender promising a pleasant surprise. The word "pleasant" was typed in capital letters, which seemed suspicious to him. Naruto's thoughts. This seems like a threat veiled as a joke. I've only seen things like this in movies before, but now. Has someone decided to switch to more violent methods of pressure? Putting everything aside, he decided not to attach too much importance to the letter, citing the fact that it could be someone's stupid joke. He just needed to be more careful on the road and in business. Finishing his day earlier than usual, Naruto got behind the wheel of his car. He rarely used a driver, preferring the feeling of control. Naruto's thoughts. Let's go home quickly. AI is probably already grumbling about me being late. Mahiru is worried as always. He turned on some music, trying to distract himself as he pulled out onto the busy highway. The dense stream of cars moved through the evening city, illuminated by the lights of the street lamps. The digital display showed the time, 1947. I need to hurry to get there in time for dinner, Naruto thought. However, after a few minutes, he noticed that the same car kept appearing in his rearview mirror. A gray, nondescript sedan was driving at the same distance, periodically changing lanes, as if following him. Naruto's thoughts. Maybe it's just a coincidence. No need to panic. He slowed down, changing lanes to check his pursuer's reaction. The gray sedan moved back into the lanes, maintaining roughly the same distance. The anxiety in Naruto's soul grew. Who is this? A threat? Pursuit? Naruto turned onto another road, trying to get away from the main thoroughfare where people were driving in a tight column. This turn led to less busy streets, but something told him to check if the gray sedan was following him on purpose. After a couple of traffic lights, he was convinced that the car was still pursuing him. The tension turned into a sharp rush of adrenaline. He picked up speed, checking every turn. Naruto's thoughts. Maybe I should call AI or Mahiru. No, I'd better handle this myself first. I don't want to scare them. At some point, a gray sedan pulled into line with his car. For a split second, Naruto saw the tense face of the man in the passenger seat and the glint of metal in his hands. Naruto cursed out loud. They're armed. He tried to lose his pursuers, pushing the car to its limits. The light rain that had started a few minutes ago made the road slippery, and the tires squealed on the asphalt as Naruto took a sharp turn. It all happened in a matter of seconds. A truck with those who were clearly acting in concert with the pursuers jumped out in front. On the left, unexpectedly, another car appeared, cutting off the path to retreat. Naruto chose the only option, to pull the car to the side and try to slip between the truck and the parked cars on the side of the road. But there was not enough space. The car skidded on the wet asphalt. The steering wheel was pulled out of his hands, the wheels lost traction, and the bright light of the truck's headlight flashed before Naruto's eyes. Then there was only the terrible clatter of metal on metal, the grinding, the noise of glass shattering into pieces. White ceilings, the smell of disinfectants, the steady beeping of the machines, all this merged into the monotonous cacophony of a hospital ward. People's voices came through a cotton cloud, they came closer, then died down again. The pressure is dropping, the doctor's tense cry was heard. Prepare the operating room. Light flooded his eyes. It was strange, because they seemed to be closed, but for some reason everything was so bright. Naruto tried to move, but he couldn't. It was as if his body didn't obey. He felt like something was being injected into him intravenously. Some voices were pouring out terms he didn't understand. Thoughts, vague, foggy. Where am I? Oi. Mahiru. Are you here? It hurts. Then darkness came. After the accident, doctors took Naruto to the nearest hospital in critical condition. Multiple fractures, internal bleeding, doctors gave no guarantees. An emergency operation was required, then another one. When AI and Mahiru learned of what had happened, they rushed to the hospital, feeling their hearts constrict with fear. At the emergency room, they were informed of the seriousness of their injuries and asked to sign a consent form for emergency interventions, since Naruto technically had no other close relatives. Tell me, is he? AI couldn't find the words, her usually clear voice sounded hoarse. The doctor, looking at them wearily, quietly answered. The condition is extremely serious. We are doing everything possible, but prepare for the worst. Mahiru, who was always calm, could barely stand on her feet at this moment. Tears came to her eyes and her lips trembled as she whispered. He has to live. He can't just. AI hugged her tightly, feeling despair and anger at the whole world rising up inside her. He will survive, she whispered. He, definitely will. They did not move a single step away from the ward. The day merged into one, waiting, anxiety, short breaks for sleep right on the uncomfortable hospital chairs. Doctors came with gloomy news, then said that the condition has stabilized, but concerns remain. At times, it seemed like this nightmare would never end. Mahiru continued to comfort her, even though she was barely holding on. AI's thoughts. In a way, he always saved us, even without words. And now we can do nothing but sit and wait for him to open his eyes. The days passed, each one darker than the last. Naruto remained in a coma, a whole complex of injuries and complications. Doctors were forced to repeat the surgery several times. The news was filled with a scandal about the accident, an attempt on the life of the heir to a technological empire. Has competition reached its limit? Panic broke out in Naruto's office, as his decisive votes on the board of directors were missing. Corporate rivals seized the opportunity to take advantage of the situation, but for AI and Mahiru, all of that was secondary. They were focused only on Naruto's survival. At night, AI would keep vigil by the bed, asking the gods, the stars, and anyone else, if only he would wake up. At such moments, Mahiru would quietly stroke her friend's unruly strands of blue-violet hair, trying to instill at least a drop of hope in her. "We can't lose him," I whispered. Swallowing tears. "We can't." Mahiru just nodded, closing her eyes to keep from bursting into tears herself. One night, when both girls, overtired, dozed off right in the ward, Naruto's brain began to slowly emerge from a deep coma. At first, it was a slight twitching of the fingers, a barely noticeable change in the graphs of vital signs. In the morning, the doctor reported that there were timid but positive signs. AI jumped up from her chair, as if ready to scream with joy. "So he'll wake up?" she asked, looking at the doctor with hope. "It's too early to draw conclusions," he answered reservedly. "But yes, the chances are growing." Mahiru knelt down next to Naruto's bed and quietly took his hand. "We are close. Please, come back to us." It took another week before Naruto could slowly begin to regain consciousness. Every minute seemed like an eternity, every rustle in the room made the girls' hearts skip a beat in fear and hope. That evening, when Naruto suddenly opened his eyes, the lights in the room were dim. AI was dozing, leaning her elbows on the edge of the bed, and Mahiru was reading some medical article to better understand Naruto's condition. Barely audible escaped from Naruto's dry lips. Mahiru flinched, dropping the tablet and leaning towards him, not believing what she was hearing. "Naruto?" she whispered, her heart pounding so hard it felt like it was going to burst out of her chest. Naruto's blue eyes looked at her, but his gaze was clouded, as if he hadn't yet fully realized where he was. "Water?" he asked barely audibly. Mahiru carefully gave him some water through a straw. AI woke up from the rustling, at first thinking that she was still asleep. But seeing that Naruto had opened his eyes, she squeezed his forearm with her hand. "You're awake." Her voice was excited, and tears started to flow down her cheeks. "Oh, God, we thought." Naruto took a sip of water and tried to speak. His voice was weak and hoarse. "What happened to me?" AI and Mahiru looked at each other, their eyes filled with so many emotions that they couldn't be expressed in words. "An accident," Mahiru said quietly, squeezing his hand. "They set you up. They tried to kill you." Naruto's mind flashed with vague images of a gray sedan and the bright flash of headlights. Pain shot through his body and he squeezed his eyes shut. "How much time has passed?" "A few weeks," AI replied, trying to speak evenly, but her voice still trembled. "You were in critical condition, She didn't finish, barely holding back her tears. At that moment, a nurse entered the room to check the patient's indicators, saw that he had woken up, and immediately called a doctor. The doctor came quickly, began asking Naruto simple questions, asked him to move his fingers and legs. It turned out that some reflexes were still dulled, complications were possible, but the fact that he regained consciousness was already a small miracle. "We'll continue to monitor him," the doctor told AI and Mahiru, writing something down on the chart. "It's important that he doesn't overexert himself right now." Of course, Mahiru answered quietly, not taking her eyes off Naruto. Rehabilitation began almost immediately after the doctors gave the go-ahead. Naruto was lying in a ward, his body was connected to sensors, IVs, and he could not yet walk. Due to serious damage to his legs, he still had to undergo many procedures and, possibly, surgery. AI and Mahiru were always by his side. They brought him water, helped him with food, turned him over if he needed to change his position. The nurses admired their devotion, jokingly calling them a security squad. "Keep it up, girls," smiled one of the senior nurses. "He's holding up thanks to you." On the day Naruto was able to sit up a little on his bed and look out the window for a longer period of time, then fall back down with no strength, Mahiru said. "Don't think you have to endure everything alone. We're here to help." "I know," he answered hoarsely. "And thank you, for everything." His voice was unsure. The arrogant coolness he had worn in school hallways or boardroom meetings was gone, melting in the face of intense pain and the need to lean on others. AI seized on this moment of vulnerability, looking at him resolutely. "You don't understand how much we were afraid for you." Naruto looked away. He knew he had caught them in trouble, made them worry, even though it wasn't his fault. But deep down inside, he felt guilty that he was so much trouble, that he only brought them fear and tears. "I'm sorry," he squeezed out. "Stop apologizing," AI said, raising her voice slightly. "It's not your fault." Time passed, Naruto's condition gradually stabilized. Doctors started saying that the fractures had begun to heal, however, there would still be a long way to full recovery, rehabilitation was needed, additional surgeries were possible. But the main thing was that there was no longer a threat to life. However, Naruto's psychological state was causing AI and Mahiru no less concern. He became even more withdrawn, sometimes turning away when he saw their concern. As if he didn't want them to see him weak. "Maybe we should give him some time," Mahiru said quietly as the two of them sat in the hallway while the room was being cleaned. "But he's pulling away," AI objected. "He might decide that he's better off alone." Mahiru looked down. "I'm also afraid that he will push us away." That evening, Mahiru came to Naruto's room as he dozed off after a painful procedure. He looked pale and exhausted. AI stood next to him, her arms crossed quietly over her chest, looking at him with despair in her eyes. Let's both stay here tonight," Mahiru suggested. "So that if he wakes up, we'll be close." "Okay," she agreed, realizing that they didn't have the strength to leave Naruto in this state. They began to settle into the ward. The nurses turned a blind eye to this, knowing how important emotional support is for the patient. Late that night, Naruto suddenly began to moan in his sleep, his face contorted into a painful grimace. AI and Mahiru jumped up and ran to him, noticing how his hands were convulsively clutching the sheets. "Nightmares, again," AI whispered, stroking his shoulder. "Naruto." Mahiru called quietly, trying to wake him up. He opened his eyes, panic surging as if he had just seen the most terrible dream. His gaze darted around the room until it landed on AI and Mahiru. His voice broke. "I watched Mom and Dad die again. And now, this accident, it's all over again." Without thinking, Mahiru sat on the edge of the bed and covered his hand with hers. "Shushh, it's okay, it was just a dream. You're safe." AI also came closer and ran her hand through his sweat-dampened hair. "Listen, we are close." Naruto looked at them and closed his eyes, but the tears glistening on his eyelashes did not escape their attention. He could not hide the pain, physical and mental, that rolled in waves, threatening to flood his mind. Naruto's thoughts. "How much longer will I have to torture them with this? I need to be strong, not just lie there. They deserve better." But AI and Mahiru, as if sensing his inner torment, only squeezed his hands tighter, not letting him out of this circle of support. Despite Naruto's grave condition, events in the company continued to develop. Competitors increased pressure, rumors circulated around the city that Uzumaki will not rise, the board of directors is ready to change hands, the family empire is collapsing. AI would occasionally go out into the hallway to talk on the phone with the board members, who were trying to find out when Naruto would be able to return to duty. She barely contained her anger as she replied. He has broken bones, he's in hospital. Let him recover. Meanwhile, Mahiru tried to organize the basics, make arrangements with doctors, find out what medications are needed, what tests. She learned to understand complex terms, consult with other specialists to be sure of the correctness of the prescribed procedures. But the real blow came when the police found themselves at a dead end in their investigation of the attempted murder. The roadside surveillance cameras were strangely damaged, no witnesses were found, and no one was in a hurry to catch the participants in the staged accident. So they set it all up to clear themselves of suspicion, I concluded, throwing the phone on the chair. This is disgusting. Mahiru frowned, her face showing deep concern. They can try again if they realize he survived. God forbid, I said through her teeth. I won't allow that. The dramatic improvement came unexpectedly. After another course of treatment and lighter procedures, doctors saw positive dynamics. The tissue swelling began to subside, the recovery processes went faster. Naruto could already lean on a pillow and raise himself to eat or talk to someone more consciously. And all this time, I and Mahiru were at his bedside, taking turns. They read him newspapers, told him the news, shared school stories, and sometimes even had small get-togethers in the ward, when they brought him tea in a thermos and the three of them quietly talked about all sorts of nonsense. Naruto's thoughts. I used to think that people always pursue profit. But these two girls, they gave all their time, energy, even their health, just to be around. Over time, he began to look at them differently. Not as random people he had met by fate, and not even as friends, but as those who had become something immeasurably greater to him. Listen, he said to AI one day when Mahiru went out to buy food. Why didn't you leave me when I was in such a state? AI looked up from the magazine she was flipping through and looked at him as if he had asked the stupidest question in the world. Because we love you, idiot, she snapped. Naruto froze, his heart skipping a beat. What? AI was embarrassed, as if she had just realized what she had blurted out, and began to make excuses. Well, I mean, we can't leave you. Isn't that clear? We care about you. He looked away in confusion, not knowing what to say. Thank you, he finally whispered, dully. Go to with your thank you. AI was confused, she wanted to scream and cry. We've been sleeping here for God knows how long, and you. She didn't finish her sentence when she heard Mahiru come in. The girl brought a bag of groceries and carefully placed it on the table, sensing the tension in the air. Are you okay? She asked, her gaze sliding from AI to Naruto. Yes, I muttered and sat down on a chair. Naruto felt his insides twist at her words. We love you. Echoed in his head. But he knew that this could just be AI's emotional outburst, and not a real confession. Naruto's thoughts. Love? Is it really possible to love someone who brings so many problems? A few more days passed, and the doctors finally gave the go-ahead to partially transfer Naruto to a general ward where he didn't need to be hooked up to machines all the time. He still had some difficulty moving, and needed crutches and a wheelchair, but the risk to his life had decreased. It seemed that everything was heading towards recovery, but at that very moment a dangerous relapse occurred. Apparently, some vessels were damaged during the accident, and one night Naruto's temperature rose sharply, severe internal bleeding began, which was not noticed immediately. The doctors rushed him back to the operating room. AI and Mahiru ran out into the hallway, feeling panic tearing them apart. No, 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 AI whispered, biting her lip until it bled. Not that. Not. Mahiru stood pale, her eyes blurred with tears, but she clasped her hands tightly, not allowing herself to fall into hysterics. He's strong, she repeated like a mantra. He won't give up. The hours dragged on endlessly. The surgical ward was filled with the sounds of doctors' footsteps, the smell of antiseptic, and the hospital cold that hit your nose. Every second felt like a fragment of eternity. Finally, when the operating room doors opened, a surgeon in a blue coat came out, removing his protective mask. His face reflected extreme fatigue, but it was not hopeless. "We've managed to stop the bleeding," he said, and AI felt a wave of relief wash over her legs. "The next few hours will be critical." They returned to the intensive care unit, where Naruto was hooked up to machines again. His face looked pale, almost translucent, as if the life had left his body. But the machines still registered a heartbeat. "Hold on, please, hold on," AI repeated, sitting by his bed while Mahiru stroked her shoulder. That night, Naruto regained consciousness, but was so weak that he could barely utter a word. AI and Mahiru were taking turns at the time. I went to get water, leaving Mahiru alone with him. Mahiru noticed that Naruto was looking at her with a look full of a strange mixture of longing and guilt. "I'm sorry," he breathed out almost inaudibly. "I bring you all only trouble." Mahiru felt a sharp pain in her chest as she heard that broken voice. She leaned closer to him so he could hear her speak. "It's not true. You give us hope. You are a person for whom one wants to try and live." He wanted to object, but Mahiru spoke first. "I never thought I could feel something like this, until I met you. You showed me that even the coldest, cruelest world can be transformed by willpower. You gave me courage." Naruto looked at her dumbfounded, not quite understanding what she was getting at. "What?" he whispered. Mahiru blushed slightly and her eyes filled with tears as she said the words she had been deciding to say for a long time. "I love you, Naruto." The room became so quiet that even the noise of the machines seemed to have died down. Naruto looked at Mahiru. He saw sincerity in her eyes, tenderness that he could not imagine in his wildest dreams. "Mahiru," he said, feeling his heart beat faster despite the weakness of his body. At that moment, the door opened and AI returned with a cup of water. Seeing this scene, she stood hesitantly, looking from Naruto to Mahiru, trying to figure out what was going on. "What?" she began, noticing Mahiru's tears. Naruto turned his gaze to AI, a mixture of confusion and the dawning realization that he was needed as more than just a friend or comrade. "Ouch," he exhaled, trying to collect his thoughts, but he was so excited he could barely speak. "What have you done here without me?" she tried to joke, although her voice was shaking. Mahiru had a hard time choosing her words so as not to shock her friend, but she realized that there was no point in hiding it now. Suddenly, determination flashed in AI's eyes. She, still holding the cup of water, walked over to the bed, placed the cup on the nightstand, and without hesitation, grabbed Naruto's hand. "I won't lag behind," she said, frowning as if she were about to beat someone up. "I love you too, idiot. And don't you dare say that you bring nothing but misfortune." Naruto seemed speechless. It seemed like he could expect anything: pity, friendly support, but not open, unconditional love from both girls who had become a part of his life. "You," his voice trembled. "Why?" AI felt her eyes filling with tears too, but she tried to smile. "Because you are real. Even with all your traumas, with all your nightmares, you are valuable to us. We don't want to live without you, you understand?" Mahiru echoed her. "You may think that you are weak now, but we know that inside you there is strength that will be enough for many things. And who needs this strength if you can't share it with someone close to you?" Naruto's eyes watered. He wasn't used to crying, but this was the moment when mixed feelings of gratitude, confusion, happiness, and pain broke through his protective wall. Tears silently flowed down his cheeks as he tried to say something, but his throat was constricted with emotion. He began, and his voice broke. I'm afraid. What? AI asked quietly, sitting down on the edge of the bed. I'm afraid that everything will happen again, that I'll lose you, like I lost my parents. This pain. I can't stand it again. Mahiru gently touched his cheek, wiping away a tear. We're not going anywhere. We're your family. And if some idiot or an entire corporation decides to attack again, I added with fury in her voice, let them try to get through us first. Naruto couldn't help but smile or cry. He tried to raise his hand to clasp their hands, and they wrapped around his hand in response, forming a single knot. I, too, he whispered. I don't know how to say it. But, you mean too much to me. The three of them sat like that for several minutes, while the hospital instruments measuredly counted the heartbeats. The warm, living silence bound their souls together, making them forget about the threats of the outside world. It was more than just recognition. It was a realization that they were ready to walk side by side, no matter the obstacles. The next morning, Naruto's room was filled with soft light. The doctors came in to check on him and, noticing that the patient seemed upbeat, left a few encouraging comments. We see that the mood is improving, one of them asked, winking at Mahiru and AI. You could say that, Naruto responded, allowing himself a barely noticeable smile for the first time in a long time. AI was literally glowing, trying to hide her excitement behind a mocking grin. Mahiru remained calm, but a new light appeared in her eyes, confidence, as if she herself had found what she had been looking for a long time. They had serious talks ahead of them about the future, about how to protect Naruto and his company from further attacks. But that would come later. Right now, they were focused on the most important thing, his recovery and showing him that he was not alone. They talked about what awaited them beyond the hospital doors, perhaps hiring security professionals, rethinking the company structure, dealing with old enemies. AI was bubbling with ideas on how to organize internal controls. Mahiru was sensibly proposing a plan to restore the company's image through an honest press conference once Naruto was stronger. Naruto himself felt that he no longer wanted to run from problems or hide behind a cold gaze. His world had turned upside down the moment he heard confessions of love. And although his fears had not gone away, he was determined to move forward. I'll get back to business when I can walk, he said that evening, lying on his bed. I promise I won't take it all on myself. AI snorted, smiling. That's right. We're already tired of watching you try to control an entire empire on your own. Mahiru carefully adjusted the pillow under his head. We'll help you. Just don't close yourself off from us, okay? Naruto nodded. Cold. The three of them were left alone again in this quiet room, the dim light illuminating their faces. AI and Mahiru shared a chair, quietly whispering about some trivial things, trying not to make any noise. Naruto watched them, feeling a feeling inside him that could not be described in words. Not the cold detachment he was accustomed to, but a warm confidence that there are people nearby who are ready to share both pain and joy with him. Later that night, it must have been after midnight, AI and Mahiru decided that Naruto needed to get some sleep, and they walked out into the hospital hallway, both of them excited, as if they had just been through a major battle. We confessed to him, I said, leaning back against the wall and looking at the ceiling. I still can't believe it. Mahiru sighed, remembering how every syllable on her lips trembled as she said those very words. He looked so confused, she said softly. But he seemed happy. AI glanced quickly at her friend. You've probably wanted to tell him this for a long time, right? Yes, Mahiru admitted, looking down. But I was afraid it would hurt him. After all, his parents died, he lost so much. I didn't want to put pressure on him. AI nodded, realizing that she had felt similarly, afraid that confessing would be another blow to Naruto, making him feel responsible for their feelings. But now that everything has happened, Mahiru continued, I hope that we can overcome our fears together. AI smiled, her bright hair falling in a soft wave over her shoulders. We definitely can. And you know what? I think there are still a lot of cool moments ahead. Yes, Mahiru smiled back, feeling relief and joy spreading through her chest. We'll have to learn to live as a threesome, it's not that easy, but it's interesting. AI winked. They laughed quietly. The heavy steps of the doctor on duty were heard in the corridor, and seeing that the girls were not asleep, he only nodded to them and went on about his business. Let's go back, I suggested. I promised to bring him some water and I'll check if the food Mahiru brought has gotten cold. Mahiru agreed. He's waiting for us. So they did, returning to Naruto's room, who, contrary to their expectations, was not asleep, but quietly looking at the moonlight breaking through the window. You're back, he said, and there was a calm joy in his voice. And you thought we ran away? AI teased him, smiling. I don't think so anymore, he answered quietly and closed his eyes, smiling with relief. Another week passed. Naruto was transferred to a more comfortable ward, where he would continue his physical therapy and learn to walk again. AI and Mahiru took care of him, taking turns helping him get used to the crutches, laughing when he grumbled about not being able to get out of bed on his own. Be patient, Mahiru encouraged. You need to regain your strength. And stop complaining, I added, looking at him meaningfully. First try to take a step, and then grumble. Sometimes Naruto would drop his crutches or make a wrong move, and pain would shoot through his body. He would grit his teeth, trying not to moan. AI and Mahiru would always be there, catching him, helping him back to his bed. Everything is fine, Mahiru repeated, running her hand down his back to calm him down. Don't rush, AI echoed. We're in no hurry. Their support gave him the strength to continue, despite the pain in his legs and the dizziness. They themselves felt how something was changing in their mutual relationship. Touches, glances, short phrases of support, everything was imbued with warmth and growing love. One evening, when Naruto was able to walk a few steps on his own with the help of crutches, a quiet applause could be heard in the ward. AI clapped the loudest. Well done. Look, just a little more and you'll be able to run after me around the city. Naruto leaned back on the pillow and stared at her, trying to remain serious. Yes, I'll be happy to run after you with these sticks, he grinned. Mahiru looked at them with a smile. At such moments, she felt that they had become one. AI and Mahiru knew that confessing their love was just the beginning of a long journey. One day, when Naruto was lying down, tired from exercising, and AI was out for tea, Mahiru decided to have a serious talk. Naruto, she began, sitting down on the chair next to him. AI and I, we're not joking. What we said is true. Naruto looked at her, trying to hold her gaze. I don't know how to express what I feel. You both. I understand, Mahiru said softly. We ourselves didn't expect it to be so strong. Naruto was silent, going over a multitude of words in his head that couldn't form a clear thought. Are you afraid it won't last long? She asked, reading the doubt in his eyes. He nodded. I'm afraid I can't give you what you deserve. My past, problems in the company, danger. We've been through this before, Mahiru said with conviction in her voice. I don't want to give up on you because you have too many problems. Quite the opposite, I want to help you overcome them. She reached out to his hand and took it in her palms. And I know that AI feels the same way. Naruto swallowed the lump in his throat. And, you too, will one day want to start a family, children, a home. We're already starting a family, Mahiru said quietly. Let it be unusual, unconventional, they'll point fingers at us. But, it doesn't matter to us. Naruto's heart fluttered like a bird in a cage. He suddenly remembered how he used to look at his parents full of love for each other as a child and dreamed that he would have something like that someday. But after their death, the dream turned into emptiness. And now fate was giving him a chance. Maybe not in the classic form, but in something even greater, two girls who love him and are ready to be there, no matter what. I agree, he finally said, forcing a quiet smile. Let's create our own family. Mahiru, holding back tears of joy, leaned towards him and barely audibly said, "Thank you." At that moment, the door swung open and AI came in with 2 cups of tea on a tray. "I don't understand, what did I miss? Why are you so happy?" She looked suspiciously at Naruto, and then at Mahiru, whose eyes were shining with tears. Naruto looked at AI and smiled in a way he probably never smiled in his life. "I just said that I wouldn't mind becoming part of a family with both of you." AI's cups almost fell out of her hands in surprise. She put the tray on the nightstand and exhaled mechanically. "Are you serious?" He nodded, still smiling. AI giggled, covering her mouth with her hand. Her eyes shone with genuine joy mixed with shock. "Well then I'll have to continue to babysit you," she said, looking away to hide her embarrassment. "Hey, it's not just you," Mahiru countered, glad that AI was taking it with enthusiasm rather than jealousy. Naruto felt his heart suddenly lighten, as if the black weight that had been weighing on him all these years had disappeared. Even the pain in his body eased, as if his body had responded to the inner surge of strength. So the 3 of them sat until the night, quietly talking, making plans for the future, whispering about how Mahiru's parents would react. "I grew up without a mother, and her father disappeared from her life many years ago. What would happen to public opinion when someone found out about such an unusual relationship?" But all these external problems faded in comparison to the realization that they had each other to rely on inside. AI periodically joked, saying, "A 2-headed family with 1 guy, that would be legendary," and Mahiru added reservedly, "The main thing is that we are together." Naruto, listening to them, felt like for the first time in many years he wasn't afraid of tomorrow. Was there a risk that the enemies would try to assassinate him again? Yes. Did he need to deal with the office rats and the corruption within the company? Definitely. Would he have to learn to walk again, overcoming the pain? Of course. But now he knew that he wasn't alone. This evening became the most vivid confirmation of the fact that love can grow even in the darkest soil, where pain, loss, and fear reigned. And although there were many trials ahead, the 3 of them felt that they were able to overcome everything. When the room was plunged into darkness, and only the duty light above the entrance dimly illuminated the space, AI and Mahiru settled down on the folding beds they had brought. Naruto lay motionless, looking at them. Naruto's thoughts. "I won't hide anymore. Maybe I've finally found a home, a real home, where I'm welcomed despite all my hardships." He felt so calm that he fell into a deep, nightmare-free sleep without noticing it. And even though in reality a new cataclysm could happen at any moment, that night the future seemed bright and full of possibilities. And behind the doors of the ward, nurses walked quietly along the corridor, whispering that this trinity stayed overnight again, and someone said, "Love is the best medicine." And perhaps this was the pure truth. Thus ended a long, troubled and painful period in the lives of Naruto, AI and Mahiru. But it was at that moment, in the hospital room, that a new, strong confidence was awakened. They could overcome any obstacles if they were together. And as for tomorrow, it would definitely come, and not as gloomy as it had been before. And it was on this evening, through tears, joy, revelations and fears, that the words that united their hearts were spoken, "I love you." Chapter 10, Living Together. A new morning in the apartment that Naruto, Mahiru, and AI now shared began with the usual noise of alarm clocks and a rush to get ready for the day. However, for some time now, the daily routine has ceased to be normal, even by local standards. AI had to manage not only to go to school, but also to regular rehearsals and performances in her idol group. Her popularity was growing rapidly, and with it, her workload. Mahiru, Naruto, and AI faced a new wave of worries. Despite all their desire to live together, they had to manage to combine three completely different lifestyles. At the same time, no one canceled the upcoming problems in Naruto's company, and the threat from competitors still hung over them. Nevertheless, they all felt that their home was getting warmer, that they were holding on to each other more and more tightly. It usually started with AI jumping out of bed at dawn, hearing a signal from her manager, who reminded her of the upcoming schedule: photo shoots, meetings with fans, morning rehearsals. All this ran counter to the fact that she needed to get to school in the afternoon. AI thought, "Why is the day so short? I have to be at the studio by 6 in the morning, and then off to school." Naruto and Mahiru are lucky, at least they can sleep a little longer. Although, no, it's not easy for them either. She quickly gathered her things for the rehearsal: a costume, a makeup bag, a change of shoes. Then, out of habit, she ran to the kitchen, where Mahiru was trying to make breakfast, and Naruto was already sitting at the table, looking through his work email. "Hi," AI said as she walked, pulling on her sweatshirt to keep warm on the way. "How are things?" Naruto looked up from his laptop. "The office is a mess, but I have things more or less under control," he said in a low voice. "Where are you going so early?" "Rehearsal before filming." I quickly sipped her tea. "Then we have a short fan meeting planned. Then off to school." "Do you really have enough strength?" Mahiru intervened, carefully handing over a plate of sliced fruit. "It's fine," AI waved it off, although she looked slightly exhausted. "I'm already used to this schedule." AI thought, "Actually, I'm tired. But quitting being an idol is not an option, because I love the stage so much and want to bring joy to the fans. And I need school too. Okay, we'll get through this." She kissed Mahiru on the cheek, in a friendly, but obviously tender way, and smiled at Naruto. "I'll be back after lunch and try to make it in time for dinner." "Okay," Naruto replied, smiling softly back at her. Naruto thought, "AI is a real heroine. She manages to study and perform as an idol. I wish I had her energy. And here I am, barely managing with my company." AI ran away, closing the door behind her. Her loud footsteps died down the hallway, and the silence in the apartment became noticeable again. After AI left, Mahiru and Naruto stayed in the kitchen. Naruto continued to look over the reports while Mahiru quietly placed fresh vegetables on a plate. "How's your leg?" she asked, glancing at him as he sat with his orthopedic brace. "Much better," Naruto nodded. "It barely hurts. The doctor said that in a little while I'll be able to walk fully, even run." Mahiru smiled. "Good. How is the audit going?" Naruto sighed and ran his hand through his hair. "We have reached an agreement with an independent company. They have already started combing through the reports. But it looks like there really is a scandal there. Someone is stealing money through offshore companies." Naruto thought, "I have a bunch of files and translations in front of me. It feels like I'm not catching half the nuances. But for my parents' sake and for my own future, I have to figure it out. I hope everything will be resolved without any more incidents," Mahiru said quietly. "And I hope so." Then they started talking about how to combine Mahiru's training with her help in the company. She increasingly began looking at financial documents, helping to find inconsistencies. Mahiru thought, "I like working on projects with Naruto. It brings us closer, and I feel like I'm helping him. But I'm afraid that one day he'll think I'm imposing myself. Still, I want to be useful." "Mahiru," Naruto said, noticing that she was lost in thought, if you're having a hard time balancing studying and helping me, just tell me right away. I don't want you to get overwhelmed. No, it's all right, she assured him. I'm even interested, to be honest. And then, it's important to you, which means it's important to me too. Naruto gratefully covered her hand with his own. Thank you. At this moment, his eyes showed sincere gratitude. He was not used to having someone share his work problems. But with the appearance of AI and Mahiru, everything became different. While Mahiru and Naruto were busy at home, I had already rushed through a series of morning rehearsals. Several hour-long dance runs, vocal practice. Her manager stood there with a notepad, noting where adjustments were needed. Manager, sternly. Oi, this part needs more emotional intensity. Remember, your voice is the key to the hearts of the fans. AI, in her thoughts, slightly tired. I'm so tired, so tired. Sometimes I feel like I'm just about to pass out, but no, I have to smile and give it my all. I still have to run to school today. I understand, she said out loud, trying to look cheerful. After finishing the rehearsal, she changed into her school uniform right in the dressing room, removing the bright decorations from her hair. She had to quickly do her hair so as not to be late for class. AI, in thought. Everything, from idle AI, we switched to student AI, I should have lunch somewhere. On the way out of the dressing room she was stopped by the manager. Today at 7 o'clock in the evening there is a photo shoot and an autograph session. Don't forget. Got it. AI nodded briefly and, throwing her backpack over her shoulder, hurried to the bus. As AI got to school, she looked out the window at the sunny street passing by. People were rushing about their business, and she thought about how little time she had left to spend with Naruto and Mahiru. If it weren't for this bunch of concerts, I could have lunch at home or at least with them, she muttered quietly. However, whenever she thought about quitting her idol career, her heart sank. After all, the stage is her passion, her path. Especially now, when her popularity is starting to grow, it would be strange to leave. AI thought. I wish I could find the perfect balance, being with the people I love and not giving up on my dreams. I just need to learn to plan everything more precisely. At school, I tried to behave in such a way that no one would guess that she was dating, well, more precisely, living with 3 people, a guy and a girl. However, many people didn't know about her relationships anyway, but almost everyone knew that she was an idol, but more often than not they perceived it as an image and a reason for envy or admiration. During long breaks, classmates would sometimes approach her and ask, "When is your next concert?" or "Can you sign this photo?" AI smiled, trying to maintain a friendly tone. But inside, she wanted to run home as quickly as possible, to their quiet apartment, to Naruto and Mahiru. When AI finally got out of school and arrived home in the late afternoon, she was met by Mahiru, who was just finishing preparing dinner. Hello. Mahiru said happily, meeting her in the hallway. Did you make it to us in time? We're having noodles with vegetables today. Sorry I couldn't help, AI sighed heavily, pulling off her sneakers. I had a rehearsal, then lessons. Yes, I understand, it's not a big deal. But now you're here. How was your day? AI slumped on the couch, taking out her phone to check her messages. Everything is fine, except that in an hour I have a photo shoot and an autograph session. So I'll just finish eating and then go on. Wow, Mahiru said quietly. When do you get to rest? Just now, about 20 minutes, and that's it. AI thought. Running again. But at least I'll get to see Naruto, even if it's only for a few minutes. She looked up and saw Naruto walking towards her with a cup of green tea. For you, he said, holding out a warm cup. I heard you have some evening chores. Thank you, AI smiled. They discussed what had happened that day. Mahiru told them about the oddities in the accounting reports. Naruto shared that he was going to personally talk to some suspicious managers in the next few days. You have to be careful, Ai said, sipping her tea. Remember that guy from the entrance? I'm still afraid they'll come back again. Yes, Naruto nodded, we've already contacted the police. But there's little evidence. Naruto thought. Looks like I'll have to hire security anyway. But first, I need to sort out the finances and find out who's behind the assassination attempt. Time was passing too fast, and Ai was about to leave for another event. Mahiru helped her fix her makeup, and Naruto called a taxi for her. Good luck. Mahiru wished, when Ai was already standing at the threshold with a large bag containing a stage costume. Thank you, Ai replied, and, rising slightly on her toes, touched Mahiru's cheek with her lips, and then did the same with Naruto. I'll be back before nightfall. We're waiting for you, Naruto said, looking after her. The signing session took place in a small shopping mall. Ai had already put on her stage outfit, a bright skirt, a shiny top and long stockings. Her stage image is completely different from her home self. There is a smile on her face, her movements are smooth, her eyes are shining. Fans lined up to get her autograph and take a photo with her manager checking his watch every now and then to hurry things along. Hey, be more active, he encouraged. Don't forget to smile and thank them. She tried her best, handing out leaflets, signing posters, taking pictures. Ai thought. How tiresome it is, even though I love my fans. But sometimes I just want to sit at home with Naruto and Mahiru, eat noodles, and not worry about anything. At some point, among the fans, she noticed an unfamiliar man in a suit, similar to the one she saw in the entrance, or was it her imagination? Her heart sank. But, upon closer inspection, she realized that it was a different person. And yet, the feeling of anxiety did not leave. Thank you for your support, she repeated, smiling at everyone who came to the table. When the session was over, I breathed a sigh of relief. But she couldn't relax, she had to change and go to the photographer for a photo shoot. The manager was already rushing her, reminding her of the time crunch. I hope I can at least return tonight to have dinner with them, she muttered. The next day, Ai's schedule didn't get any easier. School in the morning, then a short interview shoot in the afternoon, and a rehearsal in the evening. And not everything is smooth at school either, a math test is coming up. During one of the breaks, a classmate friend approached Ai. Listen, did you prepare for the test? Oh, Ai widened her eyes, honestly, I don't have time. Be careful, don't fail, otherwise you might get expelled. Ai thought. Here's another thing. If I fail the test, the school principal might start to resent my absences, and then I'll have to choose between being an idol or studying. She sighed, looking out the window. I need to find time to solve the problem somehow. Maybe tonight, when I get back. In the evening, when she returned, she found printed sheets of paper with formulas and assignments on the table in the living room. Mahiru was sitting next to her, sweeping up some pages. What is this? Ai asked in surprise, taking off her shoes. Help for you, Mahiru smiled. I know you have a test and little time to prepare. I made a short summary. Seriously? Ai's eyes lit up. Thank you. Ai thought. It's so great that Mahiru cares about me so much. She's studying herself, working on Naruto's problems, and she even took my notes. Naruto, hearing voices from the kitchen, also came out to greet Ai. You see, we have everything under control, he joked. Mahiru is going to personally drill you in mathematics. Ai fell asleep. That's right, she already told me that she would help. When are we going to start studying? Mahiru asked, pushing back a strand of hair. Now or do you need to eat? Better now, otherwise I'll fall asleep again if I eat, AI snorted. I'm actually incredibly tired, but I don't want to fail the test. AI sat down on the sofa. Mahiru laid out the printouts next to her. Naruto stood behind them, prompting them from time to time. Okay, look, here's the equation for the system, Mahiru began, pointing her finger at the formula. First we need to simplify it, then. Oh, AI groaned, what is this scribble? Be patient, it's not that difficult, Naruto reassured her. Naruto thought. Sometimes it's so funny to see AI, who behind the scenes has turned into an ordinary schoolgirl suffering over her homework. But on stage, she's a real star. Okay, AI sighed, let's figure it out. After about 40 minutes, AI's brain was already boiling, but Mahiru patiently explained each step. Naruto also added his comments. At some point, AI leaned back on the sofa, closed her eyes, and asked. Guys, how do you see our future? I think about what will happen in 5 years, when we finish school. Well, at least I do. Mahiru raised her eyebrows in surprise. What do you mean? Well, imagine that I remain an idol. Maybe I'll have to perform even more, travel abroad. And you? Naruto shrugged. I hope that by that time everything will have stabilized in our company, and I will be able to delegate the routine so as not to disappear for days. And I would like. He stopped short and didn't finish, but AI guessed what he meant. You want us to live like a normal family, right? Well, approximately. Even if not quite ordinary. Naruto thought. Yes, I want a normal life, but I understand that AI is an idol, she has her own plans, and this is her dream. I have no right to hinder her development. Mahiru thought. Maybe we can find a balance. You'll go on tour, but come back to us. We'll support you. AI smiled quietly. Thank you. I hope so. The next day, Naruto made an appointment with the suspicious managers at the office. He went there again with Mahiru, who was already perceived as his assistant. AI was in class at the time and was unable to go with them. The atmosphere in the conference room was tense. The 4 mid-level staff members were clearly nervous. Naruto sat in the chair at the head of the table, trying to act confident even though he felt the excitement rising inside. Mahiru sat next to him, turning on the voice recorder on her phone, just in case. So, gentlemen, Naruto began, I would like to hear an explanation regarding these transfers to offshore zones. The managers fidgeted. One started saying something about technical transactions, another started making excuses, that's what everyone does now. Yes, but the numbers don't add up, Mahiru chimed in, showing the printout. You indicate that the money was used to purchase components, but no deliveries were recorded. Yeah, Naruto chimed in. Where are these components? The managers started exchanging glances. One said that it was all an accounting error, the second complained about the mess with the documents, the third tried to seize on the topic of we'll fix everything, as long as there's no scandal. Naruto thought. It's obvious that one of them is in cahoots. But there's not enough direct evidence to fire them all or hand them over to the police. The meeting lasted for about an hour. In the end, Naruto warned that an additional audit would be ordered, and that any attempt to shirk responsibility could result in lawsuits. When everyone left, Mahiru looked at Naruto. So what do you think of their reactions? They're lying. But someone is clearly more afraid than others. Maybe they set him up. I think we need to have a personal conversation with each of them. Plus see which of them could be connected to the assassination attempt. Naruto nodded. I'll get to it as soon as I'm free. But I still need to resolve the security issue, we still don't know who's behind the blackmail. They walked out of the building where a taxi was waiting for them. On the way home, Naruto turned to Mahiru. Thank you for helping, he said, you were so brave in asking questions, I'm proud of you. Mahiru became embarrassed, blushing slightly. I just didn't want them to lie any longer. I will do everything to support you. Meanwhile, AI had returned from school and was preparing for her next performance, this time an evening TV show where several idol groups would perform short numbers and then give interviews. When Naruto and Mahiru returned home, they found AI running around the room with the suit in her hands. I'm late again, she exclaimed, trying to fold her bright skirt neatly. Now, where's my hairpin? Here, under the pillow, Mahiru saw. That's right. Thanks. AI thought. It's crazy, how do I manage to do all this? Someday I'll get to a point where I have less fuss. But for now, this is the price of popularity. Naruto walked into the room. Maybe I should help you with your makeup? Or call a stylist? No, thanks, I have a stylist in the studio. The main thing for me now is to get there on time. She quickly changed her clothes, looking at herself in the mirror. She saw the reflection. In front of her stood a bright, smiling idol girl, but in reality she was a tired schoolgirl who wanted some peace. I'm going, I announced, throwing a jacket over her suit. Don't wait for me, the show will be long. Okay, be careful, Naruto said. Mahiru waved after her, sighing a little. I'm completely worn out. Yes, I'm worried too. Maybe we should make her life easier somehow. But how? Mahiru thought. We can't just tell her to quit being an idol, that would be selfish. Maybe we should just make her as comfortable as possible at home? They decided to cook something delicious that evening so that AI could at least have a small snack when she returned. AI arrived after the show well after midnight. She was in a great mood, the number was a success, the audience applauded, and her performance was already being praised on social media. But physically, she was exhausted. Oh my, she muttered when she saw that the living room was dimly lit and there was a plate of roasted vegetables and chicken on the table. A note next to it read, "Heat it up and eat it. We're already asleep. Good night." AI, in her thoughts, smiling. How nice that Mahiru and Naruto took care of me. They are so golden. She warmed up the food, sat down at the table and quietly, trying not to make noise, began to eat. Thoughts about the upcoming concert, about studying, about Naruto's company, about how the three of them stick together were spinning in her head. After eating, she crept into the bedroom where Mahiru and Naruto were already asleep. AI quietly undressed to her underwear and climbed under the blanket, trying not to disturb them. However, Mahiru opened her eyes. Hey, Mahiru whispered. Are you back? Yes, sorry for waking you. Nothing, everything went well. Very good. But I'm dead tired. Mahiru smiled in the darkness. Rest. Naruto and I will tell you everything we learned in the office tomorrow. AI nodded, moving closer to them, feeling the warmth of their bodies. Sleep crept up on her instantly, and at that moment she was happy, forgetting about what was happening in the outside world. The next day, the trio faced a tight schedule again. AI had rehearsals, school, a fan meeting, Mahiru had her own studies in helping Naruto, Naruto had more meetings at the office. However, they found the evening hours to just sit at the table and talk about life. I was thinking, AI said, sipping hot broth at dinner, maybe we should somehow formalize my stay here? So that my producers and manager won't have any questions. What are they saying now? Naruto asked. Nothing yet, but they guess that I don't live alone. Recently, a manager asked me why I so often mention we when talking about the weekend. Mahiru put down her spoon. If they find out that you live with a guy, and with another girl, won't there be a scandal? AI thought. In the idol industry, relationships are usually forbidden, especially atypical ones. My contract might suffer if rumors start. That's the thing, I admitted out loud. Ideally, I should be an icon of innocence in front of fans. But we live in the 21st century, and many idols have boyfriends or girlfriends. They just don't talk about it. Maybe we should just keep it a secret for now? Naruto suggested, frowning. If the industry has strict rules, it's not worth risking your career. AI shrugged. Yes, I keep it a secret anyway. But the manager knows that I live with someone. I am a child according to the documents, and the apartment is not in my name. So for now, just say that you're just renting a place with some friends? Mahiru found a way out. Don't specify that friends are a guy and a girl, and that you're also in a relationship. I guess I'll do that, I thought. What if journalists start digging? We'll act according to the situation, Naruto said. We'll try not to advertise our personal affairs. Naruto thought. I don't want to cause problems for AI at work. If she has to hide the fact that she's in a relationship, so be it, as long as she doesn't lose what she loves. And so their life went on. All three of them were spinning around as best they could, juggling work, school, idle schedules, corporate matters and concerns about competitors. But sometimes they managed to carve out half an hour of morning peace when they drank tea together, or watched a bit of a movie late at night. Mahiru thought. The more we live like this, the more I realize that I love them both. Even though it all seems crazy from the outside, it's incredibly close and warm to me. One evening, they decided to watch a romantic comedy. AI was sitting in the middle of the couch, snuggling up to Naruto, and Mahiru was lying down with her head on AI's lap. On the screen, the main characters were sorting out their relationship, and at some point, the line was heard, "We can't be together because society won't understand us." AI pressed pause and burst into laughter. Huh, sounds familiar, right? Mahiru stood up and grinned. Ours is even more dramatic. Naruto smiled too. Well, we know that this is just a movie, but we need to live in reality. Naruto thought. But in reality, we also face the same prejudices. Maybe someday we'll have to explain this to Mahiru's parents, AI's producers, and maybe the world. They continued watching, jokingly commenting on the scenes. Tomorrow they had to get up early again, AI for rehearsal, Naruto for the office, and Mahiru for college. But it was these rare moments of relaxation together that gave them strength. Of course, not everything went smoothly. One day, AI was exhausted after 2 concerts over the weekend, and Mahiru was nervous about her upcoming college exams. Naruto withdrew into himself, not paying attention to their problems, too immersed in searching for a mole among the staff. In the evening, a mini quarrel occurred between AI and Naruto. Why don't you even notice that I'm tired and I want you to at least once ask me how I'm feeling? AI exclaimed, losing her temper. Sorry, Naruto muttered, looking up from his laptop, my head is splitting right now from all this corporate fuss. Do you think I'm not cracking? I sing and dance all day long, then I run to school, then here, and you. Don't get mad at me. Naruto raised his voice, unexpectedly for himself. Mahiru tried to intervene. Guys, calm down, everyone's stressed. Oi, Naruto, let's take a breather. But AI was already boiling. Naruto, at least you have Mahiru helping you, and I don't have anyone at work who would give me breaks. Just keep that in mind. She grabbed her bag and went to her room, slamming the door loudly. AI, in his thoughts, in tears. I don't want to yell at him, but it hurts so much that he doesn't seem to appreciate my efforts. I understand that he has problems, but I'm trying too. Naruto frowned, feeling guilty and tired. What should I do, Mahiru? I really didn't mean to hurt her. Mahiru placed her hand on his shoulder. Try talking to her when she cools down. Apologize. Tell her you appreciate her. Yes, he sighed, I will do so. An hour later, when AI had calmed down a bit, Naruto knocked on her door. "Can I come in?" he asked. "Come in," a quiet voice was heard. She was sitting on the bed, hugging her knees. Her eyes were a little red from crying. Naruto sat down next to her, not knowing how to start. "I'm sorry, AI. I was wrong not to pay attention to your feelings." She looked at him, her lips pressed together. "Sometimes I just want you to feel sorry for me. I run, I try, and then I come back, and it's like you don't even see me. I understand. I just have a lot on my plate. But that's not an excuse. I want you to know that I really appreciate what you do. Your career, your efforts at school. And everything you do for us." AI exhaled, looking down. "Thank you. I also understand that you are stressed. But let's not lose touch with each other, okay?" "Agreed," he nodded, extending his hand to her. They embraced each other. At that moment, the door opened slightly, and Mahiru, seeing that everything was fine, smiled quietly. "Well, that's good." Thus the small quarrel dissolved into warm embraces. Over time, everyone began to better understand what and who needed. AI, although she did not give up her career, learned to find moments of rest and was not embarrassed to say that she was tired. Mahiru stopped taking on all the household chores and sometimes asked Naruto to wash the dishes or take out the trash, when his leg allowed it. Naruto tried to find a few minutes a day to ask AI how the rehearsal went, to kiss Mahiru for her help, to thank them both for their moral support. Naruto thought. "It seems like we're starting to find balance. Yes, our lives may look chaotic on the outside, but there's harmony on the inside." Sometimes they would get together in the evening and stream on social media, without a face, just chatting about music or anime, since AI, as an idol, loved to communicate with the audience, and Naruto and Mahiru were supportive. But, of course, it was a closed account so as not to reveal personal secrets. One evening, Mahiru decided to throw a home party to celebrate her first major victory. The audit found key evidence of fraud, and Naruto filed resignations for several dishonest employees. Although there were still many difficulties ahead, this was a big step toward cleaning up the company. She and AI decorated the apartment with balloons and laid out snacks on the table, including Naruto's favorite foods. When he returned from the office, tired but happy, he saw this fun. "Wow," he smiled, "what a move. We decided to celebrate a little," AI said cheerfully, "because despite all the problems, you're moving forward. And we are proud of you," added Mahiru. Naruto felt a warm feeling inside. Naruto thought. "I'm really happy that I have such wonderful girls. I should make them happy more often too." They sat down at the table and turned on the music. AI took a glass of juice. She wasn't allowed to drink alcohol due to her contract and age. Mahiru also poured herself some tea. Naruto, trying to be in solidarity, chose a non-alcoholic cocktail. "To us," AI proclaimed, raising her glass. "For our family," Mahiru continued. "To a new life," Naruto added. They clinked glasses and then continued their conversation. AI told them that her group would soon have a concert outside the city. Mahiru shared the good news that she had passed the exam with flying colors, and Naruto admitted that he was beginning to believe in a successful outcome of the struggle within the company. The music was not loud, but everyone was in a festive mood. Laughter was heard in the apartment, and even if it was raining and getting dark outside, there was a cozy atmosphere inside. When the party was over, AI stretched tiredly and went to bed, as she had to run to rehearsal again early in the morning. Mahiru helped Naruto clear the table. "You know, I think a lot about what will happen to us next," she said quietly, putting the plates in the sink. "And what conclusions?" Naruto asked, wiping the table. "I'm not afraid that there are three of us. On the contrary, I feel that this is right. Although I know that people will not understand us. Yes, it won't be easy, he nodded, but at least we're honest with each other. Naruto thought. This may be the most sincere form of relationship I've ever known. With AI and Mahiru, I have no secrets, except for work ones. Mahiru smiled as she turned off the tap. Okay, let's go to bed. Tomorrow we have to get up early again, and I still want to finish reading the course material. They walked together to the bedroom, where AI was already dozing. Naruto lay in the middle, Mahiru was next to him, and AI was a little further away. But soon AI, apparently sensing movement, pressed herself against him in her sleep, sighing something unintelligible. Mahiru, in her thoughts, looking at this. They are so cute. AI may be sharp and loud, but she is very gentle at heart. I hope I bring them warmth too. She closed her eyes and fell into a soft sleep, feeling like the three of them in this room were connected by invisible threads. The next day, everything went in a circle: AI, rehearsals, school, fans, Mahiru, studies, helping out at the company, Naruto, the office, fighting corruption, planning security. But every evening, they returned to the same apartment, where they could take off their masks and be themselves. The words, "I love you," "I missed you," and "thank you for being there" were increasingly heard between them. And even though new challenges were looming on the horizon, they felt that each other's support was stronger than any difficulties. And so their life together continued, unlike the usual standards, filled with the noise of school classes, flashes of cameras at concerts, corporate meetings and quiet dinners for three. The main thing was that they no longer doubted that they had made the right choice. Despite their busy schedules, envious glances and secret threats from competitors, their triple alliance was becoming stronger. And the smiles that appeared on AI, Mahiru, and Naruto every time they met each other's eyes said it all better than any words. And who knows, maybe one day, when all the problems are solved, they will come to AI's concert together as the most devoted spectators, or arrange their own symbolic ceremony, which they talked about jokingly. For now, they just enjoyed the fact that, having returned home, they can lend a shoulder, share joys and hardships, and know that you will always be supported by the two closest people in the world. And so they moved forward, step by step, day by day, building their unique story of love and friendship. And to each new challenge they had one answer: we are together, which means we can handle it. Chapter 11, The Test of Family. After their relationship grew stronger, and each of them, Naruto, Mahiru, and AI, finally became convinced that they wanted to live exactly like this, the three of them, the moment came that everyone was afraid of and put off until the last minute: they needed to meet the girl's parents. And if AI's story was not so simple due to the fact that her mother abandoned her in early childhood, then at first glance everything looked simpler for Mahiru. But only at first glance. As it turned out, Mahiru's parents were very traditional people, conservatives who never accepted anything that went beyond the usual framework. And their daughter's non-standard relationship was akin to a real scandal for them. In addition, Mahiru's father and mother did not trust Naruto. From their point of view, he could use the girl only for status, and the rumors surrounding him, both the assassination attempt and the strange stories about him living with two girls at once, did not add to his reputation as a decent guy. The story with AI's mother, who had long since disappeared from her life, surfaced suddenly, when AI had already gotten used to thinking that she had no relatives at all. The relationship with her mother was a separate pain that she had locked deep in her soul for years, trying not to remember the day when the woman left, leaving AI small and unhappy. And if the mother had not suddenly decided to remind about herself, no one would have started this painful conversation. But one day the woman appeared on the horizon, clearly driven by a less than sincere interest in her daughter. All these new challenges hit the trio at once, testing their alliance for strength. One evening, when AI returned home after the performance, and Mahiru and Naruto were discussing how the financial audits of the company were going, Mahiru's phone suddenly rang. She glanced at the display and turned pale. Did something happen? Naruto asked immediately, noticing how her expression changed. "It's parents," Mahiru answered, pressing accept. AI froze as well, listening intently. She rarely heard Mahiru speak to her parents. She mostly mentioned them in passing. The conversation lasted for several minutes. And all the while, Mahiru's face grew darker. When she finished, she exhaled and put the phone on the table. "They want to come over," she said, avoiding looking directly at Naruto and AI. "They said they hadn't heard from me in a long time and wanted to see how I was doing." "But it's great, isn't it?" AI asked cautiously. "It's been a while since we've seen each other. Or maybe." Mahiru clasped her hands, placing them on her lap. "Knowing them, this is not a friendly visit. They mentioned that they heard strange rumors about my personal life, and want to find out everything." She lowered her head. It became clear that her parents' arrival would hardly be a joyful event. Mahiru's thoughts. "They never accepted my decisions if they didn't meet their standards. I'm afraid they might even forbid me from living the way I want and force me to go back home or something like that. But I'm not a little girl anymore." When Mahiru summarized the gist of the conversation, Naruto frowned, realizing how serious it was. "Did you tell them something about me and AI?" "No," Mahiru shook her head, "I tried to be vague. But on the phone, my father said that he heard talk that I had gotten involved with some suspicious young man, who also lived with another girl." "Aha, so rumors didn't pass them by." AI crossed her arms over her chest. "Well, nothing surprising, they discuss it at school, and your classmates could probably let something slip." Naruto sighed softly. He didn't want Mahiru to worry, but the situation required a clear decision. "When will they arrive?" "The day after tomorrow. Mom said that they would be in town on business and would drop by to see me." "So they didn't even ask if you were comfortable?" AI raised her eyebrows indignantly. "It seems not," Mahiru answered dryly. Naruto's thoughts. "Well, they must have some character. We need to prepare ourselves both mentally and physically. If they come here, we'll have to explain ourselves." "So we're expecting them in 2 days?" he asked, trying to remain calm. "Yes," Mahiru nodded. "I don't know what's best to do. Should I tell them everything directly or try to soften it?" "Let's tell the truth," Naruto said firmly. "We have no reason to lie about living together." AI frowned. "Are you sure? These people can make a scandal for you. And for Mahiru too. Maybe you should be more careful." Naruto looked at her decisively. "I will not allow anyone to force us to change our lives. I respect my parents, but I believe that their position should not ruin Mahiru's fate." Mahiru felt a warmth in her chest after hearing those words. Despite her fear of her parents, knowing that Naruto and AI were on her side was priceless. Over the next 2 days, the trio tried to prepare the apartment a little for the visit. It wasn't that it was a mess, on the contrary, they kept it cozy, but they still decided to hide some ambiguous details, for example, joint photos, where it is clear that all three are in a romantic context. "Maybe we should hide these photos?" Mahiru suggested, showing a picture of her and AI kissing Naruto on the cheeks. "Why?" AI objected. "Okay then. Maybe we really shouldn't make them angry right away." Naruto shrugged. "I think you know better. After all, these are your parents." "Yes, let's not throw it in their faces right away. It's better to talk first," Mahiru agreed. AI sighed quietly, putting a couple of photo frames away in a drawer. AI thought. "It's so unpleasant to hide like this. On the other hand, I understand that Mahiru is already scared. I don't want to make it worse. Okay, let's hold back for now." In the evening, when Naruto went to talk about work, he had a video conference with lawyers. AI and Mahiru were left alone in the kitchen. Mahiru seemed tense, constantly fiddling with something in her hands, looking away. AI noticed this. "Hey," she said softly, touching Mahiru's shoulder. "Don't worry so much. Everything will pass." "I know," Mahiru sighed. "But my parents they're very strict and they don't understand me. Since childhood, they've been telling me that everything should be as is customary. And now I live with a boyfriend and girlfriend." She fell silent, looking down. "I'm afraid they'll start shouting that I've disgraced the family or something like that." AI came closer and hugged her. "Listen, I get scared too when I think that my mom might suddenly show up and do something. But we're not kids anymore, so you can control us completely. We have the right to live the way we think is right." Mahiru smiled through slight sadness. "Thank you. I'm glad you say that. It's just that I sometimes feel like a little girl in front of them. Now you have us, me and Naruto," AI smiled back. "And together we will overcome everything." The day came when Mahiru's parents showed up at the door. Her father, a tall man with stern features, and her mother, a slender woman in formal clothes. Mahiru knew that they always tried to give the impression of being the perfect couple, hiding any disagreements. "Hello, daughter," said the father, without smiling. "We've come as we said." "Come in," Mahiru answered quietly, letting them inside. Naruto and AI were in the living room. AI stood up and bowed politely, following Japanese etiquette. Naruto limited himself to a slight tilt of his head and a short, "hello." "This is the same." "Uzumaki?" asked the father, looking at Naruto with noticeable hostility. "And also, the girl?" Mahiru swallowed the lump in her throat. "Dad, Mom, this is Naruto and this is AI. I live here with them." The mother frowned involuntarily. "With two at once?" "That is," she looked at AI, then at Naruto. "Am I missing something?" "You got it right," Naruto replied calmly. "We have a special relationship. But it's Mahiru's choice." Father raised his eyebrows. "A choice? How old is a girl to make such choices?" Mahiru tensed up. "Dad, I'm not a kid anymore. I'm studying in college, working on projects, living on my own. That doesn't mean you can go against the norms of society," the father said sternly. "How can three people live together? What nonsense." His mother supported him, quietly but no less stubbornly. "Mahiru, we want the best for you. What will people say if they find out that you live with a guy, and even with some girl?" AI clenched her fists, but tried not to respond harshly. AI thought. "They're really putting pressure on me. But I promised I wouldn't force them into a platoon. Let Mahiru and Naruto decide everything." The father sat down on the sofa and said, "We would like to talk to you alone, Mahiru. Without outsiders." He glanced at Naruto and AI as if they were strangers who had no right to be there. Mahiru felt a protest welling up inside her, but she looked at Naruto. He nodded, indicating that he respected whatever her decision was. "Okay," Mahiru said. "Let's go to the kitchen and talk." She led her parents into the kitchen, leaving Naruto and AI in the living room. "This will be unpleasant," AI muttered quietly, watching them go. "Yes. But if anything happens, I'll intervene," Naruto answered seriously. In the kitchen, Mahiru pretended to offer tea, but her parents waved her off. "Are you serious?" the father asked first. "This guy, he's the heir to some notorious company. They say there was an attempt on his life. Why do you need this? And there's this girl nearby. Dad, it's not like you think. Naruto is a good man. Yes, there was an attempt on his life, but these are his business problems, not his personal dirty deeds. What kind of girl is this? Are you three in a relationship?" The mother looked at her daughter with horror. "Yes, I I love them both, and they love me, Mahiru squeezed out, trying to speak firmly, but her voice was shaking. Both AI and Naruto. Father sighed loudly. Mahiru, come to your senses. This is savagery. We didn't raise you for this. This is immoral, unnatural. You are a disgrace to our family. You evoke sympathy from everyone who found out, the mother echoed. After all, you must admit, it's indecent. Mahiru clenched her fists. She didn't want to continue hiding, but hearing her own parents call her life a disgrace was painful. I don't think it's a disgrace, she said, trying not to lose her temper. I'm happy with them. You may not accept it, but it's my decision. A decision? Father raised his voice again. Who gave you the right to behave like this? Are you a minor? No, I'm already an adult, Dad. You know how old I am. But you always behaved like an obedient girl, and now, the mother pressed her hand to her forehead, as if she had a headache. I've grown up. And I want to build my own life, Mahiru said harshly. Please understand. The father just chuckled. You can insist on your own, but we do not approve of this. Moreover, if you do not abandon these people, I am afraid that we will have to take action. What other measures? Mahiru went cold. For example, we will stop paying for your college education. We will take away all the funds that were transferred to you. And we will be forced to declare that we disown you as a daughter if you continue to live like this. Mahiru turned pale. She remembered that her parents had partially sponsored her studies. Of course, she had covered some of the expenses herself, working part-time and receiving grants, but they had still contributed some. Mahiru's thoughts. Can they really abandon me so easily? Just because I want to live differently? A lump of resentment and pain rose up inside. But she tried to hold on. You, do as you see fit, she finally squeezed out. But I won't abandon them. Father stood up from the table with such abruptness that his chair slid back. So, you chose these people, and not us? I don't put the question in such a way that it's either or. I love you, but you don't accept my happiness. Enough, he snapped. Okay, let's see what kind of person this Naruto of yours is. He headed back to the living room, and his mother followed. Mahiru, who remained in the kitchen for a second, took a deep breath and followed them. Mahiru's father walked into the living room where Naruto and AI were sitting next to each other, waiting for the outcome of the conversation. AI looked tense, while Naruto remained calm, but his eyes made it clear that he was ready to protect Mahiru. Tell me, young man, the father addressed Naruto in a cold tone, what are your intentions with my daughter? Do you think you can have Lemon with her and another girl at the same time? Naruto raised himself up, leaning on his crutches. His leg hadn't fully recovered yet, but he could already get by almost without support, and still didn't want to show weakness. I don't think I'm having an affair with anyone. All three of us chose to live together. Mahiru is happy, and so am I. I'm not going to leave her or cheat on her. Happy? Father chuckled. She just stood in front of me and almost cried. Now that's happiness. Mahiru was quick to intervene. I cried not because of Naruto, but because of your pressure, Dad. Father looked at her, then back at Naruto. And what, you think this is normal behavior? To take our daughter away from us to some sect where everything is mixed up? AI couldn't resist. Sect? Seriously? We just live together. You should keep quiet, her father snapped, casting a contemptuous glance at her. Some kind of incomprehensible girl. How do you talk to her? Naruto raised his voice. Please, be respectful. The father clenched his fists, ready to pour out all his anger on Naruto. But the mother, noticing that things were approaching a scandal, tried to calm her husband. Don't stir up conflict. However, the father did not calm down. I want you, young man, to say right now, you will let Mahiru go if we decide that it is better for her to return to our home. Naruto looked straight into the man's eyes and said, I'm not going to make decisions for Mahiru. She will decide for herself where and with whom she will live. Father's eyes flashed. I see. So you're leading her against the family. Fine. If that's the case, then you won't get any money for her studies. From this day on, we're refusing financial support. A heavy silence fell. Mahiru turned white, clenching her palms. AI was seething with indignation, but kept silent, remembering that the most important thing now was to support Mahiru. Naruto thought. If they think they can scare her with money, they're wrong. I have enough money to support Mahiru's studies. Naruto, without looking away, replied. It's your right. But Mahiru won't be left without an education if she wants to study herself. The father was taken aback for a moment, apparently not expecting such determination. Then he turned to his daughter. Well, are you happy? Now you are responsible for your own life. Don't come crawling to us when you realize what you've done. Mahiru said with a trembling voice. Okay. I made my choice. The mother, who had been standing to the side all this time, sighed heavily. Daughter, remember, we loved you, raised you. Why are you upsetting us so? Mahiru almost burst into tears, but held back. I love you too. But my life is my life. Do you really want me to become unhappy, living by someone else's rules? The mother looked away. It was obvious that she was torn apart by an internal conflict. The father, without saying another word, turned around and walked towards the exit. The mother rushed after him. Goodbye, Mahiru whispered after them, but she heard no answer. The door slammed. As soon as the parents left, Mahiru couldn't take it anymore, sat down on the floor and started crying quietly. AI immediately ran up to her and hugged her shoulders. Naruto sat down next to her, trying to calm her down. It's all over, Mahiru sobbed, they disowned me. Don't say that, AI said softly, maybe they'll cool down and rethink. Even if not, Naruto added, hugging Mahiru close, we won't leave you alone. I'll take care of all your tuition expenses, don't worry. Mahiru looked up at him, her eyes full of tears. Naruto. I don't want to be a burden. What other burden? He answered tenderly. You help me with the company's affairs, and you're just part of our family. Yes, I nodded. We can handle this together. Mahiru cried for a while, letting out the pain that had built up. When her tears subsided a little, she felt Naruto's hand gently stroking her hair and AI's warm touch. Mahiru's thoughts. Even if my parents don't accept me, I have them. I'm not alone. I hope one day Mom and Dad will understand that I didn't do anything wrong. Several days passed, filled with Mahiru's quiet sadness and Naruto and AI's concern. And just when the trio was beginning to recover from the conflict, another blow of fate struck. AI's mother showed up. One day, AI's manager ran up to her, this was after her performance, and told her that some woman is looking for a meeting with her, claiming that she is her mother. AI went cold. Mother? But she left me many years ago. How did she suddenly decide to show up? The manager shrugged. I don't know, but she seems intrusive. I told security not to let her backstage until you decide what to do. AI thought about it. She didn't want to see this woman. She had grown up without her mother for so many years, believing that she had not just abandoned her, but betrayed her. What did she want now? Money? Fame? Or were there other reasons? AI thought. Maybe it's because of this kind of family that I cling to Naruto and Mahiru. They give me the care that I didn't get as a child. In the end, I decided to find out what her mother wants. Let her go for a few minutes, she told the manager. But stay close and take her out if necessary. When the woman entered the dressing room, AI's heart sank painfully. In front of her was someone she hadn't seen in years, very similar in appearance to AI, only older, with the same bright eyes, but with signs of unkemptness. "Daughter," she said, taking an uncertain step forward. "Why did you come?" AI asked coldly, folding her arms across her chest. "We don't have any connections left, remember?" The woman, let's call her Saori for the sake of convenience, frowned, glancing at the manager. "I wanted to talk to you alone." "You can say anything you say in front of him," I nodded at the manager. "We don't have any personal secrets." "Well, okay," Saori shrugged slightly and said with a heavy sigh, "Listen, I have money problems. And I found out that you became a popular idol." "Earning." "Oh, I see," AI interrupted, feeling rage flare up inside her. "So you decided to ask me for money?" Saori made a guilty face. "I am your mother. I gave birth to you, raised you, well, as long as I could. Then circumstances came together." "The circumstances that made you leave me and go to some man?" AI couldn't hold back her contempt. "And you never called, never showed up." Saori bit her lip. "It was difficult for me, I couldn't cope on my own. I thought you would be in good hands. And you decided that I would forget and forgive everything, and now I would give you the money?" "Well," the woman rolled her eyes, apparently not expecting such pressure. "I'm your mother. You must have a filial, or rather, daughterly, duty." AI laughed evilly. "What other daughter's duty? You gave me nothing but genes." AI, thinking. How cynical. To show up after so many years and demand money, appealing to debt? The manager sensed the heat, so he decided to intervene carefully. "Miss, AI really doesn't have to help you if she doesn't want to. You left her yourself." Saori's eyes flashed. "Shut up. This is a family matter." AI motioned to the manager not to interfere. "Okay," she said forcefully, "I won't give you any money. Go away. And don't try to contact me again." Ouch, the woman's voice broke into a shriek. "Are you really that heartless? I am your mother." "Mother?" AI almost screamed. "The mother who abandoned me and never remembered me for so many years. She found out that I became famous and showed up to swindle money. Don't you dare call yourself my mother." Saori wanted to continue, but the manager had already taken her by the elbow, pointing towards the exit. "Get out!" AI shouted after the woman as they led her out. Her heart was pounding wildly. Later, when AI returned home, she was shaking with anger and resentment. She told Naruto and Mahiru everything, trying to remain calm, but her voice was shaking. "You did the right thing," Naruto said quietly, "she's just looking for benefits, she doesn't bear any responsibility for the past." "Yes," Mahiru nodded, "but, are you okay?" "Not really," AI admitted, sitting down on the sofa. "I feel kind of nasty. I wish she didn't exist at all." Naruto came up to her and put his hand on her shoulder. "I understand," he said, "sometimes the people closest to you betray you the most. But remember, you have a new family now, us." AI looked at him, at Mahiru, and felt her soul becoming warmer. "Thank you," she said quietly, "you are my real family." However, Saori wasn't going to just disappear into the shadows. Realizing that there was no chance of calmly begging, she decided to make a scene. In the morning, AI received a message on her phone, "I know where you live. If you don't give me money, I'll tell everyone about your affair with a guy and a girl. And you're an idol, remember? This will ruin your career." AI turned pale as she read it. With shaking hands, she showed the message to Naruto and Mahiru. "She's trying to blackmail me." Naruto frowned. "I won't let her get away with this." "But what to do? If she leaks information that I live in a non-traditional family, my producers will tear up the contract, the fans will tear me apart. Don't panic, Mahiru said calmly, we have lawyer friends. We can file a complaint against her for blackmail. Yes, Naruto agreed. But for that, we need to document everything. Save this message, take screenshots. AI nodded, trying to breathe more evenly. AI, thinking. Mom really wants to ruin my life. She didn't just ask for money, she's willing to ruin my career just to get some benefit. On Naruto's advice, I agreed to meet her mother on neutral ground to discuss terms. But in reality, AI had a voice recorder with her, and Naruto's hired lawyer was nearby, ready to intervene. They sat down at a table in a quiet cafe. Sari looked pleased, probably thinking that her daughter had decided to go along with her conditions. Well, have you changed your mind? She asked. AI held the phone tightly on her lap, and there was a voice recorder lying there too. I want to understand how much you need, she said in an even voice, to gather evidence of blackmail. Sari leaned forward. Well, I don't know. Maybe a couple million yen, although what couple? 10 million would be about right, considering how much you earn. AI clenched her teeth to keep from blurting out something harsh. And then you won't tell anyone about my life, right? Sari smiled. Of course not. It's not in my interests to ruin my daughter's career. But if you refuse, I'll turn to the journalists, and they'll happily blow up the scandal. At that moment, a lawyer, a man in a suit, approached the table, and Naruto, who was slightly behind him, followed him. Sari almost dropped her cup in surprise. What kind of circus is this? She shouted. Madam, the lawyer said in an official tone, we have evidence of your blackmail. If you do not stop and leave AI alone, we will be forced to hand over the materials to the police and the media. Sari turned pale. What materials? You're kidding. Audio recordings, correspondence, screenshots of your messages, the lawyer explained. Naruto took a step forward and looked coldly at the woman. Can you ruin her career? And we can ruin your life legally. If you want to play hardball, we will. Sari jumped up, fear in her eyes. You have no right. I'm a mother. And you are breaking the law, the lawyer snapped. Looking at the woman's face, felt not even anger, but some kind of pity. But the memory of her betrayal prevailed. Get out of my life. Otherwise this recording will go to the police. Sari froze in confusion, realizing that her blackmail had not worked. You won't actually do this? We'll do it, AI nodded. Just try to write to me or show up near my house again, and I'll immediately file a complaint for blackmail. The woman looked around, then cast an angry glance at AI. Girl. I have nothing to eat, nowhere to live. It's not my problem, AI replied coldly. I don't have to save someone who abandoned me and wanted to use me. Let's go, Naruto commanded the lawyer and AI. They left, leaving Sari sitting in bewilderment. A second later she jumped up and started to follow, but the lawyer warned the cafe worker, and she was quickly stopped. After this meeting, AI was confused. Yes, the threat was legally averted, but a bad feeling remained in her soul. How could she do that? AI repeated when she returned home. Why, Mom? Mahiru hugged her. It's not your fault. She made that choice herself many years ago, and now she wants to make money. She has no right to manipulate you. Naruto sat next to him, trying to find words of support. I understand that she feels sorry, he said. But you were her victim, not her. And that doesn't change the fact that she dumped you and is now trying to blackmail you. AI thought. Why can parents be so cruel? Mahiru's mom is pressuring her, my father is nowhere to be found, and my mother is blackmailing me. At least Naruto had great parents, even if they died. AI sighed, clinging to Mahiru. Thank you, guys. If it weren't for you, I probably would have broken down. Naruto looked down. I just did what I had to do, protect you. All of this made Naruto involuntarily remember his parents, how he considered them the best people in the world when he was a child. How he wished they were alive now, to support him and say, everything will be fine. Naruto's thoughts. I see how hard it is for AI and Mahiru. I lost my parents physically, and they are losing theirs mentally, realizing that their loved ones are behaving disgustingly. It hurts too, but differently. He decided that he would do everything so that they would have a sense of family, reliable, loving. Even if it was so unusual. Several weeks passed. Mahiru officially refused transfers from her parents' account. Now her studies and life were financed by Naruto, although the girl still worked part-time where she could, and tried not to sit on his neck. Mahiru's parents sent a short message, "We are very disappointed. We hope you come to your senses." They didn't write or call again. Mahiru pretended not to care. But sometimes AI heard her quietly crying in her room or in the kitchen at night, remembering the warm days of childhood. Maybe they'll come to their senses in time, I said, wiping away Mahiru's tears. People change. I would like to believe it, she answered. But for now I must move forward and not look back. AI thought she was in a similar situation, her mother had shown her true colors. But, unlike Mahiru, AI had long since come to terms with the fact that she did not and would never have any mother, in the normal sense. Sari disappeared as suddenly as she had appeared. No messages, no calls. AI had heard from friends that she had allegedly been seen in another city, trying to get into some dubious business. I hope she finds her way, AI said bitterly ironically. But I don't care anymore. She tried to focus on her performances and school. At the same time, AI strengthened her relationships with Naruto and Mahiru, trying to spend more time together, although the schedule was still hectic. Even though there was a lot of pain around them, the trio seemed to have become even more united. Now Mahiru, AI, and Naruto understood that they were not just people living in the same apartment, but a real family, where everyone was ready to stand up for each other even from their closest relatives if they were doing something harmful. Yesterday I received a new report from the auditors, Naruto said over dinner, trying to distract them from their gloomy thoughts. A couple more big fish were caught in fraud, they're facing dismissal and criminal charges. Great. AI perked up. You're a real hero, cleaning the company of corruption. I'm trying, Naruto smiled. By the way, we've almost completed the necessary documents so that Mahiru can receive a scholarship from the foundation I created in honor of my parents. So we won't have any financial problems. Mahiru felt a warm wave of gratitude. Thank you. Stop thanking me, Naruto waved his hand. It's for you, for us. AI added with a grin, a little more and Mahiru will become the main smart head in your company. That's too much, Mahiru objected, embarrassed. Mahiru's thoughts. But if I try hard, maybe I can bring real benefit to the company. Then my parents will understand that I'm not just a confused girl, but an independent person. A little more time passed, life settled down. Mahiru didn't hear from her parents, but sometimes she had dreams in which they smiled at her, like in childhood. She woke up from bitterness, but Naruto and AI were nearby, and this gave her strength. Someday I might try to talk to them, she admitted to AI in the morning, but I'm not ready yet. I understand. And rightly so, you need to become stronger yourself first. Yes, I want to prove to them that I live not in vain and not in shame. AI hugged her shoulders. I'm sure you'll succeed. AI, too, was slowly coming to terms with the incident with her mother. The girl understood that she no longer had any obligations to the man who only wanted to take advantage of her. Now AI looked ahead boldly, she had concerts, rehearsals, school, and love for Naruto and Mahiru. I'll release a new single, she shared her plans, maybe I'll become even more popular. And then I'll announce that I'll spend all the income not on my own luxury, but on some business with Naruto. So you'll become an investor? Mahiru smiled. Why not? AI winked, is it bad to have an idol investor? AI thought. If my family can't help me, then I'll become strong myself. I'm not a little girl who was abandoned. I'm AI, a famous singer and Naruto and Mahiru's favorite girl. Naruto saw each of the girls overcome their family traumas. He remembered that he had no parents and smiled bitterly, at least my soul does not hurt because of their judgment. But of course, it would be better if his parents were alive and supported him. Guys, he said one evening when the three of them were sitting at the table, I wanted to say. Your pain connected with your parents resonates in me. But I believe that we can replace for each other those moments that we lack. Yes, Mahiru nodded quietly. I feel safe with you. AI laughed. You even sometimes act like a caring daddy, checking to see if I forgot to eat. Naruto was embarrassed. It's just that. I'm worried out of habit. They laughed together, and in this lightness there was an understanding. They do not deny the value of a blood family, but if those relatives are not ready to support them, then they need to build their own, new family, on trust, love and sincerity. A couple of months after all the events, when the pain had subsided a little, Mahiru received a letter in the mail. A simple envelope, without any markings. Inside was a short note from her mother. Daughter, we hope you are doing well. Dad is still angry, but sometimes I see that he is sad and thinks of you. I know you are in pain. We do not accept your decision, but I still love you. Take care of yourself. Mom. After reading it, Mahiru started crying. Seeing her tears, immediately rushed to her. What's happened? A letter from my mother, Mahiru sobbed, showing the text. They didn't accept me, but my mother is still worried. AI just stroked her back. Maybe this is already a sign that something can be corrected in the future. Mahiru nodded through her tears. Hope. In the evening, when Naruto returned, Mahiru showed him the letter. He read it carefully, then hugged the girl. I'm glad your mother hasn't turned away completely, he said. Maybe with time they'll understand you better. Maybe, Mahiru agreed. Mahiru's thoughts. I still won't give up on Naruto and AI, even if my parents continue to object. But at least my mother made me understand that not all is lost. That warms my heart. During this time, Naruto, AI, and Mahiru experienced a huge emotional upheaval, facing the most difficult trials, disapproval and even betrayal of their own parents. However, each of them came out of this struggle stronger. Mahiru learned to say no to her parents' pressure by staying true to herself. Despite being abandoned by her family, she felt supported by Naruto and AI, and a letter from her mother gave her hope that reconciliation would happen in the future. AI had finally put an end to her relationship with the woman who was called her mother only by the fact of her birth. There would be no more blackmail, and now AI knew, she was building her own destiny, without looking back at those who had once abandoned her. Naruto demonstrated determination in protecting his loved ones, and firmly stated his position, no opinions of outsiders, even if it's my parents, will make me abandon those I love. He understood Mahiru and AI's pain, but he knew that they were already a real family, and he was ready to go all the way. And although not everything was smooth, the three of them continued to live together, supporting each other in everyday life, work and studies. AI slowly increased her popularity as an idol. Mahiru delved into management education and helped Naruto with the company's affairs, and Naruto moved forward in cleaning up the business and strengthening his position as the rightful heir. Sometimes in the evenings, when everyone gathered at home, they joked about how they still need to organize a wedding for three to completely shock society. But now it was not a desperate joke, but rather a bright dream of a symbolic ritual. After all, legally it is hardly realistic, but for them it is not the opinion of the state that is important, but the realization that they are together. One night, AI couldn't sleep and went to the window, looking out at the twinkling lights of the city. The warm light from the street lamps reflected on the glass. Naruto soon joined her, quietly hugging her from behind. "Why aren't you sleeping?" he asked. "I think about the future. About us, about what will happen to me when I finish school." Naruto smiled, touching his lips to her hair. "I think everything will be fine." "Are you so sure?" AI looked at him, a slight glimmer of worry in her eyes. "As long as we are together, any problems can be solved," he replied. At that moment, Mahiru joined them. It seemed that she also woke up and felt that they were not in the room. "Why are you here?" she asked. Yawning. "Well, we're admiring the city at night," AI explained, smiling at her. Mahiru came closer, and the three of them stood by the window, hugging each other. The city was asleep, but for them, this silence was filled with hope. They had overcome so many obstacles, and now they believed that no family tests were scary anymore. Mahiru's thoughts, summarizing. "Yes, our parents didn't accept us. AI has a blackmailing mother, and I have a father and mother who refuse. But we live the way we want, and we are not alone. Maybe someday our parents will understand that we simply loved and wanted to be happy. But for now, we have each other, and that's enough." A new week began, as if giving a chance to look at everything from a different perspective. AI began preparing for an important concert dedicated to the release of her new single. Mahiru threw herself into her studies and work on the project that Naruto assigned to her at the company. It was necessary to optimize the marketing strategy for one of the business lines. Naruto regularly went to the office, dotting the I's in the fraud case and preparing a press release about reforms in the company in order to regain the trust of partners and clients. Their life resembled a living mechanism, where each gear rotated independently, but the whole structure worked harmoniously. In the morning, they shared breakfast, discussing who was going where and what problems they were solving. During the day, they scattered on business, sometimes crossing paths in correspondence. In the evening, if they managed to get together, they made tea or cooked dinner and shared everything that had happened during the day. AI talked about the fans who wrote to her on social media and waited for her new performances. Inside, she warmed herself with the thought that, despite the hype and possible gossip, she had true love and support, Naruto and Mahiru. Mahiru shared her successes in her studies, and although the thought of her parents' disapproval cut her heart, she found comfort in the fact that she was able to be useful to Naruto's company and develop her own skills. Naruto was sometimes so tired that he could barely stand on his feet, but seeing the girls' smiles, he understood what he was trying for. He protected them from external threats and planned to continue doing so. One evening, they ordered pizza because no one had time to cook dinner. AI was late at rehearsal, Mahiru was at class, Naruto was at the office. They gathered at the table late, but the mood was upbeat. AI, in her bright house suit, laughed while eating a slice of pizza. Mahiru poured them drinks, and Naruto told funny stories from the office about how one of the old employees tried to disavow fraud and almost got confused in his own testimony. "He should see a psychologist," AI said sarcastically. "Maybe he has a split personality. Or build a career in cinema," added Mahiru. "He'll be a good actor." They laughed, and Naruto smiled, watching how easily and freely the girls communicated. Outside, there were a lot of problems, family breakups, attacks from others, but in this apartment, unity reigned. Naruto's thoughts. "This is it, true happiness. No falsehood, no fear. Yes, there are difficulties, but we overcome them together." When only scraps remained from the pizza, the conversation turned to what they would do if public information suddenly came out that the three of them were living together. "Well, first of all," AI was sure, "I will deny all the rumors in public until I finish school, at least." And the producer told me that idols usually have forbidden relationships, but when your career is strong, you can do a lot. The main thing is not to get into a scandal. I don't want to lie, Naruto scratched the back of his head, but I understand that this could set you up. There is no need to lie. You can simply not comment. We are not obliged to tell anyone about our personal life, Mahiru supported. Exactly, AI nodded. And if suddenly someone hurts Mahiru or you, Naruto, we will defend ourselves legally. I agree, he replied. AI thought. We've already learned how to do this. I dealt with my mother, Naruto dealt with the scammers, Mahiru withstood the pressure from her parents. That means we can continue to defend ourselves. Thus ended the difficult chapter of the family's trials, when Mahiru's parents turned away from her, and AI's mother got everything she deserved for her blackmail. From now on, Naruto, AI and Mahiru could say with complete confidence that their bond had been tested not only by external enemies, but also by the most difficult conflicts with loved ones. And although their path remained difficult, and society was certainly not ready for such an unconventional relationship, they moved forward step by step, encouraging each other and believing that the main thing is happiness and mutual love. Time passed, new days came, new problems appeared, but all this only strengthened the union of three people who chose to be a family, no matter what. Mahiru learned to live with the thought that she was part of a new family, without losing hope of one day reconciling with her parents. AI continued to shine on stage, knowing that she had a reliable rear, where she could return without fear. And Naruto finally accepted his place in life, not only the head of the corporation, but also the head of an unusual family, which became his meaning and inspiration. Thus ended this chapter, the test of family, making it clear to each of them that sometimes a loved one can cause more pain than a stranger, but true love and faith in oneself help to endure. Mahiru's parents left, leaving behind a heavy trail of disappointment, but leaving a thin ray of hope in the form of a letter from her mother. AI's mother received a decisive rebuff from Naruto and the team, deservedly losing any influence on her daughter. And in the trio's house smiles reigned again, albeit sometimes through sadness, but these were the smiles of sincere people who decided to go against the conventions of society, the claims of relatives and the condemnation of others, for the sake of their own happiness and freedom. And that evening, when all three sat on the sofa, pressed against each other, each felt deep in their souls, we have passed an important test. And we are still together. Chapter 12, New Life, Epilogue. Years have passed since the three of them, Naruto, AI and Mahiru, decided to live together, despite all the twists and turns that befell them. During this time, their path was full of trials and victories, sorrow and joy, loud ups and quiet downs. But each difficulty only strengthened their bond. And then came the day they couldn't even imagine at first, a wedding, or rather, a special ceremony where Naruto, AI, and Mahiru began to call themselves a legitimate family, albeit not according to the usual social canons. For them, it was a symbol of unity and overcoming all adversity. Naruto thought. Even when I was a child, I never imagined that I would be able to have a real family again. When my parents died, the world collapsed. But AI and Mahiru helped me get back on my feet. And today, standing between them, I feel that my parents would be proud of me. AI thoughts. It seems like not long ago I was a tired schoolgirl and idle, rushing between the stage and classes. And now I have a love that I share not with one person, but with two people close to me. And I don't regret anything. Mahiru thoughts. When my parents turned their backs on me, I thought I would be alone. But Naruto and AI were more than just a support system for me, they gave me a new family, a new home. Today, on this special day, I am ready to step into the future with confidence. The ceremony took place in a country house, surrounded by greenery, with the quiet murmur of the river. The weather was warm, and the scent of flowers hung around. Mahiru had ordered rare roses and lilies especially for this day. There were few guests, friends who had proven their loyalty over the years, and those relatives who were able to accept their unusual choice. AI was wearing a light white dress that combined the elegance of a stage costume and a traditional wedding style. Her radiant smile and loose curls made her look like a fairy tale princess. Mahiru chose an elegant kimono in a soft pink shade, decorated with a delicate pattern of petals. In this outfit, she combined modesty and inner strength. Naruto was wearing a classic suit, but added his signature detail to the image, a small fox-shaped pin, a memory of his childhood and parents. The three stood at an improvised altar, an arch decorated with flowers and ribbons. Instead of an official registrar, they invited a close friend, who simply said a few sincere words. Today we do not put stamps in passports and do not wait for the signature of officials. We only confirm what already lives in your hearts. Let this ceremony become a symbol of the family that you created in spite of stereotypes. When the moment came for the vows, AI was the first to speak, her voice quiet but confident. I am very grateful to fate that I met you both. Before, I was rushing between the stage, school, and was afraid that no one would accept me. But now I know that I am loved. I promise to be a source of light for you and support you, no matter what happens. Mahiru continued, occasionally swallowing the lump that was rising in her throat. I never thought I could open up so much to live and love two people at once. You gave me wings when my parents turned away. I promise to share everything with you, joy and sorrow, successes and losses. Naruto, looking at the girls, felt warmth spreading through his chest. I was scared to live after losing my parents, but you two showed that there are people who will not betray or retreat. I swear to protect and love you both, no matter how life changes. They exchanged rings, 3 simple but identical ones. The tears and smiles of those present spoke louder than long speeches. And although no one legally called it a marriage, for them it was a real union. The festive evening was coming to an end, the guests began to leave. At night, only the 3 of them remained in the house. To the light music, from which the soul became calmer, I, Mahiru and Naruto were transferred to a spacious room, where a gentle twilight was created by several lit aromatic candles. Throughout the ceremony they were surrounded by the attention of their friends, speeches, warm congratulations. But now, only silence, only them and the pleasant aftertaste of the past celebration. AI was the first to sit down on the soft blanket by the large bed, taking off her hair ornaments. Mahiru helped her unfasten the clasps on her dress, having already taken off her outer kimono, remaining in a light cape. Naruto, taking off his jacket and loosening his tie, quietly approached them, feeling how the excitement before the intimate moment was freezing inside. They all felt, this evening was not about ardent passion, but about a special, deep unity, when the soul and body merge into one, confirming what was said at the arch. AI reached out to Naruto, wrapping her arms around his neck. Her eyes were shining, and gratitude was visible in that look. Thank you for today. Naruto touched her neck with his lips, feeling the pleasant scent of perfume and warm skin. It is I who am grateful to you. He looked away at Mahiru, whose eyes were also full of tenderness and slight excitement. She came closer, placed her palm on Naruto's chest, feeling his heart beating at a rapid pace. Mahiru. I love you both. Today is a special day. The two of them, I and Mahiru, looked at each other, a little embarrassed, but with a smile they admitted that at that moment they also wanted to be closer to each other. Leaning back on the soft pillows, raised her hand, inviting Mahiru to her. AI ran her fingers down Mahiru's cheek, her other hand still holding Naruto's hand. Mahiru leaned down, brushing a light kiss over AI's lips, gentle and full of gratitude for everything they had shared. Naruto was there, gently touching their shoulders, feeling the warmth of two loved ones at once. They were in no hurry. Light touches seemed to be studying, how the pulse beats under the palm, how quiet sighs respond. This was not their first unity of the 3, but certainly the most reverent due to the emotional coloring of today. Mahiru felt her heart skip a beat as Naruto touched her hair, gently brushing a strand away from her face before running his lips down her neck. AI moaned softly as Mahiru slid her fingers down her bare shoulders, lightly biting her lower lip as pleasure washed over her. Words were few. There were more quiet, half-strangled sighs and whispers. "You are so beautiful. I love you. Naruto, thank you for everything." The three moved in a harmonious rhythm. Someone reached for a kiss, someone responded with a gentle touch. No rough passion, just a smooth, gradual fusion, when each felt not only his own body, but also the experiences of the other. Full chap on my Busta channel. Uncle YouTube says hello. The candlelight was almost gone, leaving the room in the dampness of twilight. But each felt an inner light, joy and warmth that they had come such a long way and met this moment that became a symbol of their inseparable connection. 10 years have passed. Much water has flowed under the bridge since then. The ceremony, which seemed like a bold challenge to society at the time, is now behind us. Much has changed in 10 years. AI continued her career as an idol, then became a famous singer and producer of new talents. Mahiru took a key position in the Naruto Corporation, responsible for innovative projects and strategic development. Naruto finally strengthened his position as a leader and inspired the company to break through in technological solutions. But the main result of these years was the birth of children, whom they raised together. Children's voices now sounded in the cozy house, and the triple care of their parents was like embraces from 3 sides for them. As they got older, the 3 of them became even closer. They still had work stresses and domestic troubles, but in the evening they would sit at the same table, Naruto, AI, Mahiru, and next to them were 2 children who adored their 3 parents. Sometimes the eldest son would ask, "Why do I have 2 moms and a dad?" AI would just laugh and say, "But you have twice as much affection and treats." The youngest daughter would cuddle up to Mahiru and then to AI, happy that there was always someone to read fairy tales to. And late at night, when the children fell asleep, it would happen that they would again remember the ceremony 10 years ago. At that moment, AI would cuddle up to Naruto even more tightly, and Mahiru would smile shyly, saying something like, "Do you remember our wedding night? I was so worried." And they could laugh quietly, remembering that sweet moment when 3 adult lovers took a step closer to each other. Days turned into months, months into years, but they had one thing in common: love that went beyond the usual boundaries and justified its existence. No one doubted that their choice was right. Now they could look to the future without fear. Naruto, thoughts 10 years later. I realized that the main thing is not to be afraid of judgment and to trust those who are truly close to me. AI and Mahiru were the ones who gave me my family back. I will protect them and our children until the breath leaves me. AI, thoughts 10 years later. I used to be afraid of losing my creative freedom because of relationships, but now I understand that it is love that inspires me to create new songs and projects. Happiness is what makes my eyes brighter on stage. Mahiru, thoughts 10 years later. My parents were never able to fully accept my choice. But I don't regret it. I have my own family, and it's warm enough for me not to feel lonely. Maybe someday my parents and I will find a common language. But for now, I feel good here, with them. The evening was ending, and peace was once again reigning in the house, full of quiet laughter and children's voices. The children were falling asleep, and the 3 adults were whispering about tomorrow's plans: who would take their son to training, who would answer work emails, who would bake their daughter's favorite cookies. There were still trials in their lives, after all, fate does not stop. But they already knew, every difficulty can be overcome if the 3 of them go together, with warmth in their hearts and the confidence that none of them will be abandoned. Thus ended this incredible story. Naruto, AI and Mahiru completed their path of searching and doubts, entered the adult, calm phase of life, where there is a place for everyday worries, and romance, and family happiness with children. And even though there were questions and gossip around, for them the most important thing was inside the house, friendly laughter at the same table, hugs in the evening, when all masks are removed, and mutual trust that neither time nor prejudice could break. Thank you for listening to my story till the end. This is the end of my story.